Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cate-Cast, an entertainment podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by...
Sawyer.
Taylor.
Taylor is our special guest this week. Ahmad fell sick, and we had to find a last-minute replacement.
He fell ill.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah. I'm glad to have you too. To break down how this works, each of us has brought a topic from each of our three categories: movies, TV, and video games, to discuss with one another. Each topic has about 10 minutes of discussion before we move on to the next. This week, because Ahmad is sick and we were going to do a Halloween movie special, and now we can't because Ahmad is our horror expert, we're going to forego the broad discussion at the end and just bring our own topics this week. So with that in mind, we're going to...
There still, however, will be a Halloween special. It's just delayed.
Yeah,
next week.
we'll have a Halloween special next week. But we also have a special guest lined up for that week as well. So it's gonna be a fun couple of weeks here at the Cate-Cast. So without further ado, Sawyer, what is 24 even about?
Okay, so have either of you ever heard of 24?
No.
I've heard of it. I know nothing about it.
All right. So 24 aired on Fox from, I don't have a mod to fact check here, I believe it was 2001 to 2011, maybe 2008, I think. 2008.
Okay.
And then they did later on a special limited run 9th season in 2014.
Okay, that's cool.
So the show is essentially the main character is Jack Bauer, played by Kiefer Sutherland. He's part of CTU, which is essentially a fictional counter-terrorist. It's called the Counter-Terrorist Unit, CTU. And essentially what made this show interesting is it debuted only a month, a couple weeks after 9/11. So a show based off of counter-terror. It was...
Interesting.
When it was being developed, it wasn't, because of that. And as the show went on, it's definitely a staple of the Bush era in those early years following that. It definitely plays off of post 9/11 fears for most of the show. And the show does tackle a lot of heavy issues, and being the fact that it's on Fox, it doesn't always agree with everybody in terms of how they portray it. But it's not a show for the faint of heart either. There are some brutal interrogations, and they use the pain serum, they use waterboarding, they do stuff like that. And so there was one good thing about the show is that discussion did pop up around it.
That is good.
I will say the show, some of the stuff in the earlier seasons hasn't aged as well in terms of the way it's shot. It's very clearly a lower budget show, and they couldn't do as many things.
Yeah.
And the fact that technology, as they had said in this, does not work at all, how it works in there. They're just typing into these 2001 era computers, and they found somebody halfway around the globe in 10 seconds.
That makes sense.
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But the show itself, if you're looking for something with suspense, this show, so the core, do you know why it's called 24?
Oh, it happens in the span of 24 hours.
Yes.
I knew that.
So each episode, rather than having a title, each episode is 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And it takes place over 24 episodes, each episode being 1 hour. So there's no time jump to another day or another week.
That's actually,
really cool.
That's a really clever concept for a TV show.
So essentially, one season covers one day, and it's all about Jack Bauer stopping whatever terrorist plot is happening on this day. Most of the time, it works really well. The only problem that I occasionally have with that format is somehow Jack Bauer ends up not liking somebody at the beginning of the day, and then about 12 hours later, they're best friends, and it's it's because they were a TV show, but in the plot of the movie.
that is I can definitely see that being an issue where usually a 24 season or 24 episode TV season will have a character arc that spans weeks and months that over 24 episodes. Whereas if you have the same format, you can't just do a single day where you have a character arc that expansive.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I could definitely see that being an issue with the show.
And that was part of the problem with the narrative sometimes of the
Yeah.
show, is there wasn't typically a character arc. it'd be something a problem would start that character was having, and then they'd resolve the problem by the end of the show. So say some character can't overcome a fear of this, but then by the end of that day, they've somehow resolved that problem through their actions in the face of whatever this is.
Yeah.
Though it is unrealistic at times that this entire terrorist plot was conceived, hatched, and then executed all in what seems like a day.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really big unrealistic element of this. And like going back to the character arcs, trying to figure out how a character gets from point A to point B in a matter of 24 hours.
Yeah. Which is why and it also became unrealistic because the first 6 seasons of the show all took place in LA. So it was like LA was repeatedly getting hit over and over and over.
And it's naturally rebuilt in the matter of an
episode. So that's why when they went into season 7, they're like, we're going to move this to Washington, D.C. And then season 8 was New York, and the Live Another Day special was London. So and they did do because the show was airing during the writer's strike, they had like this layover time where they did a 2-hour movie where Jack's in a fictional African country, and now obviously they didn't do a 24-hour movie, so it was essentially just I think it was like they just covered 2 hours during the presidential inauguration, and so
and he was like doing counter-terrorist stuff during the inauguration.
Yeah. So it's like the inauguration is going on, and you're seeing that while at the same time Jack is battling a dictator over in.
That's a cool way to adapt the concept of 24 into a movie script. Is to just do like a single event and having to deal with what's happening at that one event.
That's why if they were going to make a 24 movie, something like that would work. There's been talks of doing a theatrically released movie. I don't see it working that well, especially based on how the miniseries they did that wrapped up the plot holes has ended. I don't really see there being a movie featuring Kiefer Sutherland. They did, however, do it's like a semi-reboot of the show called 24 Legacy. I believe it was canceled. At least they haven't made another season. It was starring the guy, I can't remember his name. He's the guy who played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. He's really good. I can't remember his name.
I haven't seen Straight Outta Compton.
He was also in, I believe, I'm thinking of the other guy. He was in something else big recently too, but the guy who played Dr. Dre in that, he's really good, and he was good in
Corey Hawkins.
Corey Hawkins?
Yeah. Corey Hawkins.
Yeah, he's good. I wish we could have seen more with him because I really enjoy him. But he was the star of the semi reboot. It still took place after all the other stuff had happened, but no characters really crossed over. At least I don't think.
It's like how we have like all of these in the universe of blank, but it doesn't actually have anything to do with that thing.
Like they'll say like, back when Jack Bauer did this or whatever, but it's not really directly connected to anything.
It kind of reminds me of like the Heroes TV series or
it's exactly like that.
It's like they're connected by a very thin line.
Like they'll mention something and then maybe a C-level character will pop up and you're like, oh, I remember them, but that's really all you'll ever get. But the main show, I liked it a lot. I watched the first 6 seasons and like half of 7, and then I didn't watch season 8, but I did watch the miniseries they did. I had to skip 8 in order to have time to watch the miniseries. I would recommend watching it all the way through. It is a lot of episodes, time commitment. 8 seasons worth of 24 episodes, though the mini season 9 was only 12 episodes. It only covers like the last episode of the season jumps ahead 12 hours, so you still get a full 24 hours, but
that's interesting.
Yeah. It's good. It's violent. And I would say don't watch the show if you get frustrated by issues of like political issues, or if you get upset by like plot lines involving terrorism, because the show does not shy away from it. However, Kiefer Sutherland is excellent in the role. He's become a excellent meme, and there's
we love meme material.
There's a light language here, but there's a quote that he'll have over the entire show. Damn it, Chloe, where's the bomb? Just like saying that over and over. Chloe's cool, but yeah, you got to check out the show. It's great.
It sounds really interesting. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's I believe it's on Hulu. Maybe it was on Netflix for a little while, but it's not anymore.
Okay.
And the movie. A lot of people leave out the movie. The movie essentially ties in. It's like what ends season 6 and starts season 7. It introduces the villain, and also it's the changeover of the presidents. So the one that's being inaugurated in the movie is the president during season 7, and it's the way out of the president from during season 6. So it's like that transition, and there's a really cool action scene with Jack Bauer. And most of the time, since this is all in the city, they have to kind of work around this, and things can't get too large scale. Whereas in Africa, since there's a lot of wide open spaces, they can have bigger battles. So there's a really cool gunfight in a village that we're checking out.
Yeah, I've noticed that like whenever shows will have like their stories cross over into other countries. Especially if they're like an action show, you start to see a lot more like of a different kind of action scene. Like in Arrow season 3, for instance, they went to
Native Parbat?
No. Well, they did, but towards the beginning of the season, where they went to find Thea at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And it's the first time you ever see Oliver use a gun. There's a lot more of an open space, and so it even though it feels harsh, still it feels a lot brighter as well. So I thought that was really interesting that they were able to do that.
Last 2 things to mention on 24. First thing is they do count the commercials as part of that 24-hour time frame or like hour of the show. So what it'll usually do is when it would go to commercials right beforehand, it would have there's a clock that ticks throughout the entire show. So you get like this digital clock, like black background with orange numbering, and it'll tick, and they have this really iconic like tick noise. It'll cut to black, go to commercials, and then when it comes back from commercials, it'll have that clock ticking again.
That's awesome.
So the commercials are counted as part of the time frame. That and the first like 6 seasons of the show, I guess first 5, are really good. Especially season 5. Season 5 is probably my favorite. Season 6 is a little weak. That was the one during the writer's strike, so it's not as strong.
Makes sense to
Season 7 and 8 are good, but they kind of felt like we got to keep the show going. Kind of thing.
Kind of like dragging out the characters' plot lines.
Yeah, it's like we got to keep this going.
Out.
That being said, some of the storylines for the side characters are pointless. They just use it to fill time. Like there's a storyline, and I think it's season 1 of Jack Bauer's daughter, like trying to avoid a cougar in the woods. I was like, what? this is weird.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but other than that, most of the storylines are worth it, and yeah, it's worth checking out.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Game of Thrones, Taylor. I know Sawyer's been watching it.
Yes.
And you have watched it?
Yeah, I've seen seasons 1 through the beginning of 5, and then during season 5 I got kind of bored.
Okay.
So, because it started to get very slow, but that's just because, the writers were trying to get the characters in the right place so they could cross storylines. And then I did the worst thing possible. I skipped right to season 7.
Oh,
when
really?
It came out. Yeah. So,
wow. I don't even watch Game of Thrones, and I know that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I know. I was so mad at myself. It's like watching Harry Potter without reading the books.
You'd be like skipping
Yeah.
straight from like, I don't even know a good example. It'd be like skipping straight from, I don't know, Goblet of Fire to Deathly Hallows.
Yeah,
like, you're
it's
just
just not okay.
You're missing entire details.
Yeah, I created a TV show sin. I'm sorry, but oh my gosh, I have to say, season 7 was really good. One thing I wanted to talk about was the upcoming season 8.
The final season.
The final season. Apparently it's going to be big. It's like 90-minute to 2-hour episodes.
Allegedly.
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 I'm hoping
2-hour
so.
episodes?
Yeah.
Wow, they're going full Sherlock with this.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like blowing a budget at like $15 million, maybe even above per episode.
According to, I can't remember who it was, but this is going to be the largest season, like in terms of budgetary and in terms of scope and scale of TV that's ever existed.
Wow.
Like it's gonna, but then again, with the budget HBO's given it and how mega sized the show is, also the fact that they're dropping it to 6 episodes instead of 10, so you got more money to dump into it.
It's literally, for me personally, I know I might be overhyping Game of Thrones, and I know it has been overhyped, but I feel like it's really changed the way television has been. It's changed how we view television. It's changed.
It definitely, I think, opened the floodgate to television that explores a wider topic or a wider range of themes. Like I think without Daredevil, we would not have like these Marvel Netflix shows. Basically, all of the Netflix originals that have come out.
Yeah.
I don't think would make sense in a world that didn't have Game of Thrones as sort of the starting point for this.
Yeah.
And I think also Game of Thrones kind of showed also too, characters in TV shows can be well developed.
Yeah.
And I feel like Game of Thrones did a really good job with developing like each and every one of their characters to the fullest. Some characters obviously can't be as developed as the main characters, or but I thought that was really cool. Something I love about the show.
Well, and it does show with this series that shows that take place in like a fantasy setting can still be taken seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because we're watching a show that features, in some points, dragons and giants and technically ice zombies, it's still taken seriously by many people, and it still treats itself as an actual legitimate world. It doesn't like do tongue-in-cheek jokes or treat it as a huge spectacle, even though there are spectacle moments. It treats itself like it's an actual world.
Yeah, I think that is something that I appreciate about like Game of Thrones, things like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, stuff like that. Even though Harry Potter, I think, is a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, because that series is a lot more about reverence to fantasy ideas, whereas Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones are just high fantasy.
And it also has to do with what audience you're trying to reach.
That too, yeah. Because with Harry Potter, you're reaching like 90s kids, basically.
Yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000s kids. Whereas Game of Thrones is targeted heavily at adults.
Yes.
They're like, hey, kids, don't watch this movie.
If you're
don't
under 17, you should not be watching the show.
I first watched this show, I believe, when I was 15.
Yeah, that's a bad
so
idea.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah. And Lord of the Rings is more of like an all ages, sort of like everybody can watch it, but few can understand it. Is maybe the
I would say
point.
like everybody can watch it, but everybody's going to get something different out of it.
Yeah, I think
Right.
Somebody who's 12 watching it is going to get something different out of somebody who's in their 60s watching it.
Yeah. So, yeah. What... I mean, you can feel free to spoil it for me and for them. Because
I know
spoiler tag.
Yeah.
Spoiler tag for the audience.
Spoiler tag.
Yeah, because I don't have any plans on watching Game of Thrones, basically on principle. So you can go ahead and.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories
about
about the upcoming season. I believe this won't give a lot away, and it probably won't. But there's talk about characters that have passed in the realm of the film, not the film, the TV show, coming back as White Walkers,
Which are essentially ice zombies.
pretty much.
That's
part of the not realistic aspect of this.
That's a dark idea.
And
especially because I assume some of these characters have left like loved ones behind.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's
most of them actually.
Every season there is a tragic death, or probably more than one.
Well, I will say that's another thing I wanted to address with Game of Thrones is the fact that one, the writing is so good, and two, they take chances. Some of the things, like specifically spoilers for season 3 here. The episode Reigns of Castamere.
Oh gosh, no.
That episode, the fact that they did what they did, so essentially, this is the one me and Cameron were talking about in the lab. It's,
I think I know what you're talking about,
so the character of Robb Stark and his mother, Catelyn Stark, after, they're at war currently with the Lannisters and King Joffrey, and King Joffrey, air quotes.
Yeah. Not much of a king.
Yeah. They're at war and they need to seek refuge, and what they're essentially doing is marrying a member of Robb's council to another, I think it's House Frey, so they can gain access to a bridge to cross their army over and go after, I believe it's their Joffrey's army or somebody's army.
Okay.
It's been a little while since I watched the episode.
The Lannister army.
Yeah.
More
So essentially, they're at this wedding, and the Lannisters made a deal with the Freys, and the entire Stark army is killed during this wedding.
Wow.
All of them. The entirety of the Stark army, including want to be king Robb Stark and his mother Catelyn Stark.
So basically, every major character that was at that wedding dies.
Anybody who was at that wedding is dead.
It's
with the exception of Arya Stark and the Hound, but they're not there. They're just riding into it, and they see it happen.
And what I think is hilarious about Arya's character, she always shows up right
after somebody in her family dies. Yeah.
You're right after,
right after. Well, spoilers again for season 1. After Ned Stark dies, she's right there. When Liza.
Gosh, man, her character. Whew.
This is actually something that I think brings up an interesting topic. Is you guys are talking about something that I notice people talking about in other shows a lot, whereas like you have that one character that's there to do a very specific thing.
Yeah.
Like for instance, this character is there specifically to show up at poor times when her family is about to die. Yeah. That sounds like basically what this character it not necessarily is for, but it is a habit of that character.
It's part of her journey as her character.
I think it definitely speaks to the idea that Game of Thrones is not immortal or is not above the fact that it's a TV show.
It still does follow TV ideas.
Right.
So it's like I think you were talking earlier about how it's overhyped sometimes, and I think that's definitely something that I notice is people are like, "Oh my gosh, Game of Thrones."
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's still a TV show, right? Like, it's not... There's nothing different about it in that aspect.
There is some things I believe are slightly different, but it's still...
Yeah.
Like, in terms of the way it's paced out episode by episode, that's different. It's not like each episode is its own self-contained story, most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
Each episode feels like it's one part of a long season, and then the seasons all feel like they're bleeding together.
Okay.
So the show is not essentially...
movie.
Yeah, it's one 80-hour, roughly, movie, and the seasons are essentially... Think of it like a book, because they're based on books. Each season is essentially a chapter. So it's like, cliffhanger the chapter here, and then in 6 months, the next chapter will start, and you just keep continuing. There's not really a start and end to a season. It just kind of keeps going.
That's interesting.
Now, time does pass, but they don't specify how much time has passed between each season. So the characters will get older, but you're like, how much time passed? You don't know.
And there's also like continuity errors within the time passing because it's like
Well, like for example, Bran growing up, but that would mean he's been in the woods for like 2 years now.
Yeah, and then some characters get from point A to point B in like the matter of 2 episodes, while like Daenerys is like trying to.
She's crossing the desert for like a year.
For like what, like 6 seasons, I think.
And some storylines. This show takes a lot of kind of attention to detail to keep going.
Yeah, that was something that I've heard people talk about.
Because they're, especially in season 2, they introduce a lot of characters that you're going to need to know. And the show, I mean, you can back me up on this, the show essentially does not have a main character, with the exception of, I would argue, season 1 does. But every other season after that, it's an ensemble. It's characters vying for the throne, and what's going on with them. And whose family they fight for. It's not really like, Jon Snow is the main character. Even though he has the most screen time out of any other character, he's not the main character. It's a bunch of, it's an ensemble cast.
And I think that's what I love about this show, too, is you don't know who to root for. And there's times you're thinking, like, this character is, like, so cool and awesome, and then you make a questionable decision. Kind of like Jaime Lannister, for example. Yeah. You're always wanting to be on his side, then you're like, nope.
There's no character. They treat the characters as people, not as protagonist and antagonist. So you've got characters like, I'd say, you've got, who is it? So like Jaime Lannister, for example, he helps his brother. You feel bad for him. He's kind of got his father weighing down on him, but then so you feel bad for him and you kind of like him. But then he also pushed young Brandon Stark out of a window, and he's in a relationship with his sister. So it's like I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a moral gray area.
Yeah, no character is essentially 100% good or 100% bad. They treat them as people, and I like that. Especially like, what's the well, I guess the only character who seems to be like morally infallible would be like Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Like seems to have not really had a lot of bad things to choose.
I feel like season 8 is going to be the time where his character takes a 180 because he's probably is going to discover who he truly is, which not going to spoil that. But I think a lot of season 8 is, I mean, obviously as the show ends, it's bringing characters, stories to an end, and also characters discovering like their place and what decisions they made and how they're going to affect.
Like I said, the show is essentially, if we're counting in season 8, it's one 80-hour movie. That's really what the show is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of scale, and a lot of memorization you have to do, but it's worth checking out overall. Not if you're squeamish, though.
No.
See, I'm squeamish.
Yeah.
If you don't like violence, don't keep up with the show. And if you don't like nudity in your shows, there's a lot of it in like the first 3 seasons. As it goes on, there's not nearly as much. It's mainly just the first 3 seasons. But the show is, if you like interesting stories and grand scale narratives, that's what this show is. If you can get yourself past the violence in it, it's actually a really interesting story, and it's essentially just a more adult Lord of the Rings. That's really what the show is.
Okay. Cool.
Anything else you want to say, Taylor?
No, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, this show, I really like it, the characters and the way it's been developed and filmed, and just it's something, I feel like it's different, but it's also not different from other shows on TV, but
I can understand that.
Really has a good storyline, and it gives you a lot to think about. Like, you're engaged the whole time. So I definitely recommend this show for sure.
Cool. Well, I guess we're moving on to Daredevil season 3 now.
No spoilers, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it. I will spoil seasons 1 and 2. In anything that I happen to say, I guess. I don't necessarily know what direction I'm taking this. Coming off of the heels of Iron Fist season 2, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. 9 out of 10. Best Marvel Netflix season 2 that I've seen. I haven't seen a Jessica Jones season 2 or season 1, so I can't. It's iffy.
That's all I can say.
Okay.
Season 2? I didn't know you watched season 2.
I've seen some episodes of season 2, and there's some twists and everything, but that's another discussion.
We'll talk about that some other time. Daredevil season 3 going in, I was really worried that it wasn't going to be good, just because these Marvel Netflix shows haven't had the best of luck these past few seasons. Like, Iron Fist season 2 was great. I really like Defenders, mostly because I'm a crossover nerd. So like, if it's a crossover and it's got good writing, I'm into it. Yeah. Iron Fist season 1 I didn't like so much. I haven't seen Jessica Jones. Luke Cage season 2 I didn't like. I liked the ending. I didn't like it, like the whole season as much. And Iron Fist, I was genuinely surprised. I was like, wow, this was great.
And then it gets canceled.
Wow. and then it gets canceled, much to my chagrin. Daredevil season 3 is terrific. Everything that they do with all of the characters, not just Matt Murdock, Wilson Fisk, characters like Foggy Nelson, Karen Page, Bullseye. What they do with Bullseye is really cool.
Who plays him? Is anybody we know?
Well, so apparently, I'll look up his name. I don't remember his name. Daredevil.
Because I didn't even know Bullseye was gonna be in it until the trailer came out, or maybe the season even dropped and we heard about it. They kept that a secret. I don't remember even hearing any casting news.
Cast and characters. Wilson Bethel, who was considered actually before Chris Evans to be Captain America.
Interesting.
He absolutely kills it as Bullseye. Literally and figuratively. There's an episode that centers on his backstory. I won't spoil anything else beyond that because it's worth knowing it's worth watching the episode contextually without knowing necessarily, like, going in what's happening in that episode. The episode on his backstory not only is fantastic for his backstory, but for how his backstory is portrayed, and the way that they shoot his backstory is brilliant, in my opinion.
Is it kind of like the Wilson Fisk backstory episode?
No,
No,
it's there's an episode on Karen Page's backstory that's more like Wilson Fisk's backstory episode in season 1. The way that they do Bullseye's backstory is entirely different. I can't say much more than that without spoiling stuff. But it's really good. There's a scene in, I think it's episode 3. There's an action. It's not even just an action scene. It's like an action scene, a dialogue scene, and it's like, 2 action scenes and a dialogue scene in the middle. That's all one take, and it's like 10 minutes long. And it's so brilliant. Like, I haven't seen, as somebody who watched, I don't know if you've heard of it, Children of Men.
I've seen Children of Men.
Is famous for its long takes. Anybody who likes that will adore that scene in the episode, because it's like, I watched it and I was like, and like 5 minutes and I was like, have they cut yet? When was the last time that they cut? I don't remember. So yeah, that was fantastic. There are even more, like, and the funny thing is, even though there aren't necessarily more like long take action scenes in the season, I think there are even better action scenes throughout the season, which is saying something. Again, not going to spoil anything. They just ramp up not necessarily the scale, but like the intensity and the creativity of the action scenes.
So don't tell me if this is a spoiler. So, but does Frank Castle pop up?
No.
Okay.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think they even mention him, actually, which is, I guess. They do. They mention him. No. Wait, no. I might be mixing that up with a review that I read that mentioned him.
Yeah.
In any case, no, if they do mention him, it's like a very brief moment.
Because I figured, I know, like, spoilers, but I do know that Wilson Fisk pops up in this, so I figured since he had met...
He's the main villain.
I figured because he had met Punisher in prison was it in season 2?
Did he? I don't remember.
I remember him. I vaguely remember him meeting Punisher at some point. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody different, but I thought he met Punisher at some point.
I don't know. Vincent D'Onofrio kills it as Wilson Fisk again. There's not much else I can say there.
Yeah.
There's not much else to say. Like, his Kingpin is the definitive Kingpin, in my opinion. Like, Travis Willingham was pretty good in Spider-Man PS4, but let's be honest, Vincent D'Onofrio, there's no competition here.
And you're definitely not going to see him go up against Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, they are.
No.
You're not going to see that happen.
I really want them to.
Oh, I'd like it, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh well. In any case, Daredevil season 3 is fantastic. I hope they don't cancel it.
Me too.
I don't think any of these Marvel Netflix shows are canceled for good. If you missed it, Iron Fist and Luke Cage got canceled. I don't suspect that any of these characters are gone for good. I suspect that Disney's streaming service is going to pick up these shows. But we'll see, I guess.
I would also not be surprised if either A, we get a Heroes for Hire TV show, or B, if we end up getting something like, even though they're not doing another season of Defenders, since that was a limited event series.
They've said that it's not out of the realm of possibility. They're just not planning it.
Not like another Defender season, but another crossover. So they do Defenders subtitle, something like that. Just another limited series that they do.
Oh, okay.
So not necessarily a Defenders 2, but another
Defenders blank whatever.
Yeah, something separate that they do as another crossover. I wouldn't be surprised if they did
know those those rumors about the Scarlet Witch Loki shows that popped up?
Oh my god.
What if they did Defenders Loki?
That'd be cool.
Boom.
Dude.
Yeah. Just that would kill me. I would actually just die of happiness.
Yeah, Loki and Scarlet Witch are actually two of my favorites in the Marvel universe.
That being said, though, would they have to dump down the violence so that Loki could be in it? Because
man, Loki's the most violent MCU villain.
But would Marvel bosses and studio heads be okay with Loki appearing in a show where people get impaled? And
Loki impales people.
I know, but not quite nearly as much.
He impales people in Avengers.
I know. I'm just saying.
I don't
compare that
see
scene to the.
All right, sorry about that, folks. We had a bit of an interruption. That's what happens when you record in a public space, I guess.
Yeah. So where were we?
What was I saying? Oh yeah. I was saying I see where you're coming from. I think that could be considered a worry for Marvel execs, but I also think it's not the Marvel movies. Yes, they're PG-13, but I think that doesn't restrain the Marvel movies. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The only way you can make that more violent is to show more blood.
Yeah,
that
movie is not a kids movie.
Yeah, so I don't think Marvel has always had a problem with violence in and of itself. I think the thing with Marvel is that they don't want their big tentpole movies to be gory and have tons of sex and gritty and all of that. That's not the vision that Kevin Feige has.
Yeah.
So if they suddenly give the keys to Loki and Scarlet Witch, two characters that I think would fit perfectly in the Defenders universe, if they give the keys to the Marvel Netflix people, I think I could see that just working perfectly fine.
I wonder how that would work, because spoilers for Infinity War, Loki's dead. So how are they going to make that time? Also,
I don't know.
Because allegedly, now I haven't watched them in a while, but I thought based on the timeline, the Marvel Netflix series take place in 2016, 2017, around that.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
So they've moved forward in the movies. They'd find a way to line it up, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
as Marvel always does.
It'd also be interesting to see how the Disney streaming service, how violent they're going to allow creators to go on their original shows. This new The Mandalorian Star Wars show. Yeah. How dark are they going to let them get? I'm genuinely interested to see that.
Yeah. I don't know. They this is my thing with Disney, is I think they're more willing to be adult than they let on.
Oh yeah.
I think is something.
I'm thinking the streaming service, it's going to be less like a Disney Now app like they have, and more of just a Netflix featuring all Disney-owned properties.
Yeah.
It's going to have that. Now they own 20th Century Fox, or almost own 20th Century Fox. Yeah. You're going to have all of the Fox properties. You're going to have all of Lucasfilm, all of Marvel Studios. Anyways, back to Daredevil.
Yeah.
I think I would not be surprised if Daredevil and Jessica Jones eventually get canceled, solely for the reason that they're going to get transitioned over to the Disney service, because I can't see Disney willingly letting characters they own compete and have shows on a rival service. I just can't see that happening.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm sure there's a clause in the contract about that they had when they gave these shows. Same with Punisher. We keep forgetting Punisher, but I'm sure at some point these shows...
It's funny because Punisher is sort of it started on Daredevil season 2, his character. Oh great.
Do you want to pause?
Give it 10 seconds. Sorry, more technical difficulty.
I have no idea what's going on here. Also,
such a good question.
Do not disturb.
Yeah, we wrote "Do not disturb" on this giant whiteboard
Problem
here.
is the people above us don't get the memo.
Yeah, I kind of understand that. It's okay. They don't know we're here.
People are just nuts in here.
So, anyways, to wrap up Daredevil Season 3, I think there's a very good chance. We're just going to have to live with it.
Keep going.
Oh my goodness gracious. I think what's important to understand is that this show ends with an open-ended ending, but that doesn't mean that they, like, the story has to keep going.
Yeah, so it's not like a cliffhanger. It's more just like they leave it open to, hey, there could be more.
Yeah, it's like how Arrow Season 3 ended with with Oliver and Felicity riding off into the sunset. And actually after that, Stephen Amell tweeted, like, hey, I know that this looked like a series finale. It's not.
Yeah.
Like, we're coming back for Season 4. It's all fine.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of a similar thing here where they could cancel it and it would be okay because the story ends. Like, they don't have to keep going. But you could also have it.
And that's like an interesting thing with like TV shows right now, including streaming service shows, is all of this era of modern high budget, high kind of productions television shows that started with Game of Thrones in 2011 and have kept going. Most of these shows are starting to end now, and I guess technically you could count Walking Dead as one of those, but shows like Breaking Bad already ended. Walking Dead's on its decline. Iron Fist and Luke Cage are both canceled. A lot of these big budget, like high production value, mega sized shows are ending. So what's gonna replace them?
It's because they see the potential in games.
No, I honestly think that games are going to become another. They're growing exponentially.
I mean that sort of as a joke, but I also think that's true. Like Spider-Man PS4 tells us that if you make a great game based on a Marvel property, guess what? It's going to sell gangbusters.
Yeah, it's like that EA narrative in games people actually care about.
So I think. Especially with TV being so, like, it's really hard. Like, movies, it's hard to get a return on investment. TV, it's even harder.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it was never really worth it to begin with. So if they can find a different way to tell these stories while still making, like, a even bigger profit, then I think that's the route they're going to go.
I think you can still do shows like these.
Yeah.
But the studios and these networks can't expect that every show they make like this is going to be a Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You can do a mid-level budget and still tell a serious, large-scale story.
Yeah.
You don't need to have the budget of Game of Thrones to tell something cool. Which is going to be interesting to see with these shows that got planned. HBO, I know we're going back into streaming stuff like that, but they're doing a series adaptation of Alan Moore's Watchmen. And it's kind of like their replacement to Game of Thrones. So I want to see if they're going to take a page from Daredevil's book and make it more dark and serious. Because I can't see a Watchmen adaptation that's not super dark and super serious. So it'll be interesting to see with how if Daredevil affects, like, I'd say the two shows have affected modern, like, genre storytelling on television. Were Game of Thrones and Daredevil.
Okay.
Because like all these superhero shows, you hear them say, "Is it going to be dark like Daredevil?" I mean, technically, Arrow's what started this wave, but Daredevil really kickstarted it.
Technically, The Dark Knight is what started this.
Well, I'm talking about TV.
Well, yeah, but you'll hear a lot of talk if you go back to when Arrow was first going.
It's The Dark Knight.
It's obvious that they were going for Batman Begins, Dark Knight.
Oh yeah,
like there's no way
question.
There's no question. So really, in all honesty, where we are in pop culture right now is basically thanks to The Dark Knight. Yeah. Like, without The Dark Knight, we wouldn't be where we are.
I mean, you can trace back most of pop culture just to specific milestones. Like, you go back far enough, Star Wars is what's kicked off most of what we have now, to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent.
In terms of big, high production value spectacle, it's Star Wars.
Yeah, and The Dark Knight is sort of the next Star Wars, in a sense.
In terms of just evolving it from less about just being spectacle and more about character as well.
Yeah. So, well, that concludes our TV category. We went a little long on that. Taylor, so NASCAR Heat 3 is coming out.
It already came out.
Oh, it came out.
Yeah, September 7th.
Nice. Okay.
So it's already on the open. I wanted to talk about it, one, because I'm a NASCAR fan.
Okay.
Grew up on it. I love it. Two, because I feel like, I mean, NASCAR is a dying sport, but I always found so much enjoyment in racing games, whether it be like racing in GTA 5 on like the Tron bikes or like in the different cars. But
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed, exactly.
Need for Speed, Forza. I mean, I don't know what you played, but like all of those racing series.
Yeah, but I thought just because NASCAR Heat 3 expands to more consoles than it used to, like it's in the PlayStation, the Xbox One, Microsoft Windows.
I was going to ask you that. What all platforms is it on?
Those are the platforms, and then you can get it on Steam with the Microsoft.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you can get it from Microsoft platforms on Steam?
Yes.
Is it also, because I haven't noticed, is it only digital? Because I haven't seen any physical copies of NASCAR.
There are physical copies, yes. For the Xbox One and PlayStation, I'm like 95% sure there are actual physical copies for those.
Take a look at GameStop's website.
It must just be a lower production thing, because I haven't seen too many of them in stores.
Yet again, dying sport.
Unfortunately. Who develops the NASCAR Heat?
Monster
series?
Games were the ones that actually made them. I forget who it was actually produced by, but I know they made the game series.
$5 right now. It's either Activision or EA.
I think it's like 704 or something.
704? I've never even heard of them.
It's something like.
I can see NASCAR like NASCAR's like yes, we're gonna sell a license to 705 games.
So Monster Games. So they do like ports, is what it looks like. Well, so they do the NASCAR Heat series. They did the Excite Truck Wii game. They did.
There was just a Monster Energy game for Nintendo Switch. I don't know if
it's not listed on here.
It might have just been using the
They
label.
did the Xenoblade Chronicles 3D port for the new Nintendo 3DS.
It's a pretty good port.
Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, and then they also co-developed Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze with Retro.
For those of you who don't know, porting is when you take a game that's on one platform and move it over to another one.
So, and then they do. They have basically done. I don't know. Was there a NASCAR game between Dirt to Daytona and NASCAR Heat Evolution? Were there NASCAR games between those?
That is
times?
good information that I don't know,
okay.
Unfortunately.
Because if not, and there wasn't one before the very first NASCAR Heat game on the original PlayStation.
They've waited that long? Oh.
Yeah, because the last game listed here before the 2016 NASCAR Heat Evolution is NASCAR Dirt to Daytona. So, and then the first one listed in Monster Games library of NASCAR games is NASCAR Heat in 2000.
That's what always interests me about video games based on sports is that a lot of the time video games aren't taken as legitimate forms of entertainment. So to see most of the time, and typically the audience of people who enjoy sports doesn't usually cross over with video games all that often. It is starting to now because video games are getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. But it used to be, as you said, NASCAR Heat 1 was on the PlayStation 1. In the 90s, video games were not nearly as huge as they are now. So I think it's interesting to see how a lot of the time with the license for companies to use these sports, like for example the NFL license the Madden NFL games, that license has been passed around. EA's got a strong, tight hold on that now, but MLB has gone around. NHL, I'm sure, has gone around a couple times. NBA is so confusing.
MLB is a Sony exclusive.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It is the history of sports in video games is fascinating because it's been you can't even really say this license belongs to this person because there's so many separate deals and workarounds. It's incredibly hard to track.
And I like to see the advancement in our technology and in our design usage of in video games, because to see like NASCAR Heat in the 2000s, like the design of the cars and the animation to now, it's crazy.
I would still say that sports games are really the only remaining genre, other than maybe something like a hero shooter. But then again, you can't even really consider that. I'd say sports games are really the only other genre that's left that is still part of the era of just how video games in the past were, of just you pick up a controller, play for a little while, and when you're done, you just turn it off. Or just like it not necessarily mattering a chronology or a sort of
any storyline, or
not necessarily just storyline, but any sort of numbering system or knowing this game
progression.
This game, a progression of games. It kind of just seems like we're gonna make a new game, slap NASCAR in the box, and put it out. Not seriously saying it's bad, but like sports, and not just NASCAR in general, but sports games in general, because they're like, oh, people are fans of the sport, they'll buy it.
Something with this one, especially just how they've marketed it. They've put what I believe is the most iconic NASCAR team of all time on the cover, which is Team Hendrick. A lot of stuff I won't go into because it's confusing or just too much. But the way they're marketing it now, and they're like, we updated all the tracks, so you can race on almost every single track that NASCAR has to offer. And you can play from any of the series, so you can drive like the regular cup cars or the trucks. But there's a lot of updates from the original, obviously. In this one, so I just thought it was really cool to see, and definitely need to get my hands on a copy of this.
Gotta find a platform to play it on.
Yeah, I definitely have to find a platform. That's the issue. But it seems like a really fun game.
It was 704 Games, which is
who owns it? Is that a subsidiary?
It was formed as Duesenberry Martin Racing in January 2015. This is according to the Wikipedia article.
And they're the developer or publisher?
It's a subsidiary of HC2 Holdings, which acquired the license to develop NASCAR video games on January 1st, 2015. They're the publisher.
That is legitimately surprising that NASCAR sold the license to somebody who was not a massive publisher. Like, the fact that NASCAR did not go to EA or Activision, Ubisoft, one of those, is
my thing is maybe they don't have the budget to do that.
Yeah.
NASCAR has the budget to sell to whoever they want.
Well, and this specific publisher has been publishing NASCAR games since 2015. So
who had the license
it's a relatively recent. Let me look, because I guess the NASCAR Heat series kept going before Monster Games took over the.
Yeah. Well, and it could
NASCAR,
also be necessarily
series.
that a studio didn't need necessarily the NASCAR license, because, like, I don't even know. I think EA has the Need for Speed license, I believe. So, like, EA's already got Need for Speed, so why would they want to buy NASCAR? Or, like, Ubisoft has. I don't even know what Ubisoft has now. They got everything nowadays. But
and definitely because I feel like more storyline based games are definitely in now more than the classic racing games. Like you said, the games that you can just turn on.
I would say arguably story based games. While they're big now, I would say it's also the gaming landscape is so broad now.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily just like you either have a multiplayer only game or a story based game. There's so many gray areas. And the fact that people think that video games and gaming in general is just, all games are just this. It's a video game. There are so many subgenres and titles and ways to play. They're not all just you pick up a controller and play. And I think that's what people need to eventually discover, is that video games are not just video games. They have a lot more to them.
So NASCAR video games. Yeah. There are a ton of NASCAR video games.
Yeah.
I did not realize how many NASCAR video games there were. So the other thing too is I guess Gran Turismo is part of the NASCAR, is like considered part of the NASCAR gaming series, at least by Wikipedia. I don't even.
Despite the fact that it's owned by Sony, which is weird.
So I don't know why, but I think NASCAR probably just wanted to have its own publisher. Is probably the deal with the 704.
Yeah.
Because if I was the NFL right now, and I was like, just let's change history for a second and say that NFL decided to make its own games, or like NFL was hiring like sort of second-rate developers to develop their sports games. Right now, if I was looking at EA and the spectrum of publishers right now, I would like none of them.
Yeah.
So if I was the NFL, I would say, maybe I should just have my own publishing company, hire some people who are good at this job, and just let them do their thing.
Yeah. But again, EA's got a stranglehold on most.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, change history for a second. If I was one of those, like the NBA, EA, or the NFL, NHL, like all of that, I would seriously consider having my own studio, my own publisher, instead of doing the thing, like the licensing thing.
Yeah.
I basically think that about every licensing thing. Like, Marvel basically just went to Insomniac and
just
said,
take whatever you want.
Make a Spider-Man game.
Well, and then there's also, like with licensing, Warner Brothers just straight up just said, okay, we're going to make a game studio.
Yeah, they have their own really talented game studios.
Warner Brothers is one of the best studios working right now.
So I think
Warner Brothers is actually making better games than they are movies right now.
So
interesting.
Yeah, that's a sort of depressing thought.
Yeah.
So I almost think that's the better, like if you have a franchise, I think this is debatable depending on the company. I mean, Warner Brothers, right? But if you have a franchise or if you have something you want to license, don't license it. Do your own thing with it. Because especially if it's successful enough. I think J.K. Rowling was stupid not to seek out a game a game development studio.
I would have to agree with that.
And like do her own publishing thing, where instead of licensing out the Harry Potter series to WB to make the movies, to make the games.
Well, wouldn't WB have owned it? I guess it's kind of a case like Lord of the Rings, where WB had the right to make games based off the movies, but not the books.
I think that's probably what it was. I think. Of
course, they went to EA,
which is stupidest decision I've ever.
I think those days of the early licensing of games, something like how we used to have with movie tie-in games, those days are gone. Most of the time nowadays, I think we're gonna get like smaller budget studios, like something like an MGM or something like that. They're gonna just take their licenses to another studio and say, make a game based off this, we'll pay you X amount.
Yeah.
Or major studios like Warner Brothers. I would not be surprised if Universal eventually gets on the game and makes their own studio and makes the games directly in-house.
Yeah, well, this is a thing, and I don't mean to get us totally off track, but I think the thing that you'll see when you play the NASCAR games, and I don't want to rag on the NASCAR games, I haven't played them, but I think something that would, like, looking at how many NASCAR games there are, and in the short amount of time they would have been developed in, I think, and then seeing games like Batman Arkham, Spider-Man PS4, there are many other examples of this. If you give a studio time and money, and it's a talented studio, like Sucker Punch has basically had as much time as they needed to make any game that they want at this point.
I think
like,
most Sony studios
have. Sony basically tells them, like, look, we like the Infamous series, so if you want to make a new Infamous game, by all means, make an Infamous game. Nah, they're gonna make Ghosts of Tsushima. Yeah. So
I think really the only game in Sony's stable right now, they're like, no, you're gonna make another one. It's God of War. I think
God of War and Last of Us.
Yeah,
I definitely think there were executives that went to Naughty Dog store and was like, hey,
you're gonna make another.
You're making Last of Us too. Like, don't. And Uncharted.
Well, Uncharted, but I don't think after Uncharted 4 we're going to be getting more.
I haven't played Uncharted 4, so I can't say story-wise, but I think the Uncharted brand is going to continue.
It just won't be with Nathan Drake.
It won't necessarily be with Nolan North, Nathan Drake, like that whole thing. So,
but the brand will continue.
The brand
or they'll just reboot.
Keep going.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a reboot.
Oof. Video game reboots?
Hey, Tomb Raider wasn't bad.
That's a fair point. I guess for me, thinking about reboots, like, there are a lot of game series that aren't old enough for me to, like, be deserving of a reboot. Yeah. Or if they are, they don't have a story that needs to be rebooted.
Exactly.
So it's like...
It's just to roll in the cash, basically.
Yeah.
And most of the time, with the way video games are, you can just... Like, essentially, with a lot of the older video games, if you remake them, that's enough of a reboot as it is.
Yeah.
Like, if they remade the original Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Switch with modern-day 3D graphics, it essentially would be a semi-reboot.
That's sort of what people say Breath of the Wild is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would say also, like, another example, those 2 old MSX games in the Metal Gear series, if you remade those with current-day technology, they would be completely different games.
I'm sure.
So...
Yeah, so do you have anything else you wanted to say about NASCAR Heat 3?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Last thing I do want to say is I think part of what you were saying with that, I think with the licensing issue, most of the time that at least NASCAR, the company or organization, whatever it is not necessarily thinking about give the developer time to make a good game. They're just thinking, hey, video games make money and we want, and everybody else, like all these other sports have already got a license in there with the studio. Yeah. We need a license. Here, we'll give you this amount of money, go do something with it, put it out by this date, and then we'll get the money.
Which, like, as an artist who's writing fiction, right? I think about like the way I would handle my property, and I would basically just like pick a studio and pick a publisher and be like, hey, I'm gonna pitch you this. I want this studio. I would handle my own thing and maybe let the publisher handle the publishing aspect of it, and whereas, like, I see a lot of this thing with licensing games where it's like, all right, we need, like, Activision, for instance, Activision Spider-Man. Like, they would just release a Spider-Man game basically every year. Yeah. Same studio would be developing them.
Same with the Madden NFL license.
Yeah. And it's a shame because there are really talented developers out there that just, like, want to make this they want to use this property for something great,
and as we see with racing games, the Forza games do big numbers, at least the last time I checked, and they're great games.
They're on Microsoft's E3 stage every year with a car.
And when Gran Turismo comes out, those games are big too. Yeah. So it's weird to me that, like, a name synonymous with racing and cars, NASCAR, is just like, they're not putting a lot of, at least what it seems to me, effort into it. They're just throwing the license out. Now, not to say the game is bad. I'm just saying with their license, it seems to be like they're just kind of throwing the license around and seeing what sticks.
And I would agree. I don't know if the licensing is the best choice, but I do think the fact that the game came out this year, especially for the sport, is so important because what the sport is trying to do is they're trying to target a younger audience to kind of keep the momentum of NASCAR alive. Yeah. And the fact that they released a video game which targets more younger audience into racing, and then from what I know about this game so far is that it seems it's pretty accurate to what the driver actually experiences in the car. And
okay.
So it's more like a simulator than a racing.
Yeah, NASCAR sim. That's cool.
I think that the time when this came out, of course, like the company who produced it, maybe not the best choice, but at the point of when this game is coming out, it's really important for the sport and it's important for the interest. And
it's good you're going to be building more fans because, like you said, it's not nearly as popular as other
as it was.
NFLs.
Yeah.
Which also fascinates me that they're targeting a younger audience, and it's not on Nintendo Switch, at least from what I've seen.
That was actually one of the things. I was looking at the consoles this was on, and I was like, there's no Nintendo.
They might have started developing this before the Switch was like...
Either that or the Switch just can't handle it.
Yeah, I would.
There's a chance that because the Switch is basically like an upgraded PS3.
Yeah, a lot of games the Switch can't handle.
Yeah,
so
because this seems like a pretty heavy duty game.
Yeah.
With all the
like the Skyrim being ported to the Switch was a big deal.
Yeah,
so
and that's also a game that came out in 2011. So.
Yeah, so like that should tell you something about the Switch's
like the most difficult game of what can run on the Switch that I've seen so far is like the Japanese only cloud version of Resident Evil 7, which essentially takes the entire system hardware as well as cloud storage to fit that entire game on that system, and so it will run out of battery power like that.
So just play it on your TV. So let's move into something that will also run out your battery power pretty intensely. Infinity Blade.
Okay. So most people probably don't know about Infinity Blade, and that's because it's not on any consoles. It is an iOS App Store exclusive series. Now, normally, I do not consider mobile gaming legitimate gaming. Most of the time, I consider them just excuses for, hey, I'm bored when I'm on the subway and I need something to do, so I'm going to tap around on the Angry Birds.
Yeah, dumb way to tap on your phone.
It's a way to keep the kid busy while you're waiting for dinner, essentially.
Yeah. It's a way to not socialize with people.
Yeah, it's really what mobile games most of the time are. They're not legitimate, well thought out games. They're time killers, or they're ways to take 99 cents out of your wallet for a microtransaction.
Yeah.
Most of them, that's what they are. Infinity Blade changed that. I believe, this could be wrong, but I know it was at an Apple event at some point.
I'm sure.
And that I'm almost like Steve Jobs introduced it himself and almost commissioned it. Epic Games is the one who developed the series. Epic was the publisher, but it was Chair Entertainment was one of the studios they owned. So
okay.
It's Chair
Chair is Angry Birds, right?
I don't think so.
Fact checker.
Fact check. Let's go.
But Chair, at least I think it's Chair Entertainment. I know Epic Games owns the license. I think they just licensed it out and had Chair Entertainment develop it.
Free.
But anyways, it's changed the game for what App Store gaming could be. This was not an excuse to cash in 99 cents or $1 to $2 for a microtransaction. While there is microtransactions in it, they're very subtle, and they're only like, your typical things of like, oh hey, you want to spend $1 so you can upgrade and get more gems to buy a suit or whatever. Okay, we're looking at the fact checking right now. Angry Birds is currently owned by Rovio, not Chair. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought
that's like right, Rovio.
So anyway, Infinity Blade. What separates that from your typical App Store gaming is the graphics in it is essentially it's almost like a mid-level PS3 game running on an iPhone. Keep in mind, this first game came out in like the iPhone 4 era, so they look really, really good now. They run on any iOS device after that, I believe. You can run them on iPad as well as iPod, but most people don't have an iPad nowadays. They have a legit narrative behind it, but it is very subtle in terms of the way the story is told. It's not like a directly told one to you. Like, the Call of Duty zombie games, where like there's a story there but you have to really dig around to find it.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of how Infinity Blade is. It's really hidden, but if you want to keep looking, you can find the story.
Yeah, it's also more about the technicality of it.
Yeah. There were also 2 ebooks they released later on that went in depth about the characters in it.
Oh, that's cool.
But, the series, in terms of gameplay, it's nothing special. It's essentially someone's going to swing at you, and you'll tap a button to lean left or right, and then there's a dodge button and an attack. You swipe to attack. That's really what it is. The gameplay is simple, but what makes these games great is, the sense of scale in it, and simply the fact that we were talking about the Switch being able to run things. The fact that the iPhone can run this.
Yeah.
This is not just a time killer. This is legitimately a legitimate game. The voice acting is great. The art style is what really sold me on the game. The art style is kind of like if you took Game of Thrones and put it like a semi sci-fi setting into it. So computers and holograms and stuff like that exist, but it's also run down high fantasy stone structures around there.
That's cool.
It's a really, really cool setting. I believe you can get the entire trilogy for like $15 on the App Store.
Not bad.
It's not, I would say, if you're like, oh, Infinity Blade looks cool, it's not worth buying an iOS device for, especially with how expensive those are. But say you've got an iPad, you've got a cheap iPad you don't use a lot of the time, and you're like, I'll just go ahead and download the Infinity Blade games on it. I think it's worth, if you're going to get it for just activities, an iPad, get the Infinity Blade trilogy, you're going to have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a system seller, but it's something worth buying.
If you're going to play a mobile game and you don't want to just kill time, it's going to be Infinity Blade.
Okay.
There's other interesting games out there on the mobile market, but most of the time they're ports of console games. I believe there's that wasn't too positively reviewed version of BioShock that was on the App Store.
Yeah.
And I know they ported Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic to the App Store.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Not the second one, just the first one.
But that's really the only other games. Like most of the time, if there's anything big on the App Store, it's
Square Enix will release some. So like I remember they released The World Ends with You.
Yeah. But like I said, ports of console games.
Yeah, they'll do more ports than.
Like
there aren't really any original.
Yeah, like the GTA PS2 games, they reported to the iOS store.
Yeah.
Now, what is interesting to me is I was genuinely surprised when I saw this at E3. Bethesda announced there's going to be an Elder Scrolls game called The Elder Scrolls Blades, which is going to launch first on iOS and Android. I don't know about Android, but I know it's launching on iOS. It's going to come to Steam later, obviously. I mean, Steam.
Yeah.
But it is launching as like designed for
tap
iOS,
controls,
like, designed for touch mobile controls, and
crazy.
It is very reminiscent of, well, especially of the early Elder Scrolls games in terms of the touch and first person kind of style, but it also is very reminiscent of the Infinity Blade games. So it's interesting to see something like Infinity Blade, which is not as well known, influencing a new kind of emerging way of doing mobile games. Because as we've seen with the slow and painful death of the PlayStation Vita, and really, I think most people nowadays aren't going to buy handheld consoles. I think Japan is the one thing keeping that alive, and also the barely, and also the brand name Nintendo.
Yeah,
Nintendo can sell them because of their name, Nintendo.
Yeah, and the 3DS is probably their last dedicated handheld too.
I would say so. Like now with the Switch, once the 3DS's lifespan is done, it's going to essentially be the Switch.
Yeah.
But also the Switch can get away with it because it also has the docked mode.
Yeah.
So you can get away with that.
Yeah, it's a home console as well.
Yeah. So that being said, I think if they want to keep mobile gaming as a thing, studios need to put money into developing legitimate games for the App Store.
Yeah. That and start developing ways to actually put games with like controls.
Yeah.
Analog controls rather than tap controls, because I've been playing The World Ends with You Final Remix. They didn't actually make it run with the stick unless you're doing it in docked mode with motion controls.
Yeah.
So when I was buying it, I was like, it's still a great game, but I was like, I don't know, like, is this? I don't want to use the touch controls. I would rather run around with the stick and press the Y button.
I do think this is coming, however, though, because as Xbox showed on their E3 stage with the whole game streaming, play anywhere kind of thing, I think that is going to be coming eventually. As what they implied, I believe they had a shot in that demo reel where they showed somebody playing on an iPhone with an Xbox One controller or something like that.
That's crazy, man.
I would not be surprised eventually if Microsoft and all these other studios follow suit. Their games somehow have a way of streaming to a phone through some kind of cloud-based system, and you can Bluetooth sync a controller. Or I've seen some of these things in stores and on Amazon where you can clip your phone into some kind of reader thing, and you can have a controller attached onto your phone and use it like a handheld console.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we get something like that, just like a Microsoft sanctioned controller like clip thing for certain kinds of phones. I think those days, the days of just having video games as being a console you plug into your TV or a handheld you buy that's dedicated to games, that's going away. The lines of
I can't wait.
You buy a PlayStation, an Xbox, or something Nintendo, and you play games there. It's no longer going to be that. It's going to be you can play games on your TV, you can play them on your computer, you can play them on your phone, you can play them on a dedicated piece of hardware. The lines are going to get so blurred.
Eventually, the only dedicated gaming thing you're ever going to buy is a controller. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Video games are going to become increasingly more and more like the way movies are going. Of just you buy a license to a movie on Vudu or Amazon Prime, and you can watch it on any device. Yeah, that's what games are going to become.
As technology moves more towards being mobile, it's really important to have a device that you can take with you.
Like I always say, everything is going to move towards the internet. Yeah. Everything is going to be internet. You're not going to eventually have physical games eventually. It's all going to be buying it on some online storefront, and you could stream that thing from the cloud to any device and download it on there. I don't know how you download it onto a phone because I don't have that technology. But it also needs to have that cross-compatibility. I don't want to buy a game on my PC that also allegedly works on mobile devices, and I can't play it on my iPhone.
that they need to solve that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think. Well, movies have had a similar evolution in the sense that like you had the studio system and studios own their own theaters, and so you had these sort of crazy things where studios would sort of push blocks of movies, and so the theaters had to take the good with the bad. Yeah. Nowadays theaters are their own thing, even though there's still a little bit of maybe corruption going on. Yeah. So like movie theaters aren't as exclusive anymore, which is great because you could go to any movie theater and see Avengers or whatever. Yeah. I think games are going to have not necessarily the same evolution, but a similar evolution in becoming more universal.
Because people forget that video games are still very much in their infancy.
Yeah, they're 30 years old.
Yeah, in that early era, a lot of the time too, wasn't exactly a very strong out of the gate push for video games. So we really only, in terms of video games as a legitimate art form, it's only really been around in terms of like storytelling and art.
Give it about 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like roughly since I'd say the PS1 to now.
Yeah.
Like
Metal Gear Solid.
As much as I count it with the start of Metal Gear Solid. That's what I count. Like as much as there were great narrative-driven RPGs like the original Final Fantasies on the NES. Yeah. I think there are exceptions on those early era consoles, and I love those systems. It didn't really start until the PS1.
Yeah. Like legit storytelling as we see it today.
With actual Metal voice acting, and camera angles, stuff like that. Yeah. Silent Hill.
Silent Hill. Resident Evil.
Well, Resident Evil didn't exactly have legit voice acting. It still doesn't really have legit voice acting.
There are tons of movies from the old days where it's just like trash. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
There are movies now that
you kind of have to you have to kind of count. You have to kind of credit the beginnings of an era with like the bad stuff of that beginning, because it then proves that hey, the entire thing, like it's not just everything is awesome. Yeah. It's like, hey, we have this whole movement of good and bad stuff, and we've sort of reaped the rewards today.
So Taylor, I want to get your opinion. I know you're not as big as a gamer, so I want to get your opinion as somebody who's not as immersed into the gaming landscape. How have you, if you have at all, kind of seen this transition in the gaming world, and where do you think it's going?
I mean, I have seen a lot more like games on mobile devices, and I know that's where a lot of companies are leaning towards. So as mentioned before, I see a future where you have a controller, you can like Bluetooth and like hook it up to your phone and play it like that. I see it going that way.
Which sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but most controllers are already Bluetooth.
Right.
So, Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah.
Both.
So.
Yeah. So I really do see it going that way. As for the video games, I know I'm not as interested in video games, or I am interested, it's just I've never really been able to find a console or a game that I really like.
Or a capable PC, I guess.
Pretty much, my PC is garbage. Anywho.
So is mine. It's okay.
I really want to see a rise in the amount of video games and how they're produced, and I want to see more interactive video games. I like the ones where you can choose your own story and there's multiple different endings, multiple scenarios. Yeah. I feel like the more interactive they are, the more they're going to bring people in.
Yeah. Not just with video games, but with everything. With there's never been a thing in human history that's been as monumental as a game changer as the internet is. Mm-hmm. With a few exceptions, I guess.
I mean, like the public transport is universal public transport is probably a pretty big one too.
And the printing press, but I would say like if we're listing those monumental game changer moments, the internet, there has never been anything like it. Yeah, and I think that the internet is going to blur the lines of everything, especially with entertainment. It's eventually the lines of this is TV, this is games, this is movies. That's all gonna get kind of mangled.
Even together. Books are gonna be like super.
Oh gosh.
You're gonna have like day. It's gonna be like when you have not the HDR, the touch photos on the iPhone where you click and hold and like with the previous 5 seconds before you took the photo pops up. That's gonna be like it is in books, where you're gonna hold on a picture and there's gonna be like a little bit of motion. It's gonna be like a GIF.
And see, that's my thing.
No.
I love, things going with books and then video games. Like, I love the direction it's going with more technology, but also it's like holding on to the things that like started it all, like actual books that you hold in your hand.
And eventually, we're gonna get to the point where that's gonna be the retro thing. You're gonna have kind of like how with records are now, where bands are still releasing some limited edition records. You're eventually gonna get that with movies and books too. Like, just wait till the day when a studio has the retro VHS release of something. Like, wait till we get the...
It's already retro to buy a Blu-ray.
Yeah, I would say almost. I still buy Blu-rays.
I mean, but you buy retro consoles.
Okay, well...
I think whenever you say something like, hey, it's not retro, I do it. And I think you're a bad example.
Okay, I'll give you that.
One thing I do hope for technology, this is kind of going back to a TV thing, Star Trek. You know how they have like the holodecks and everything?
Yes. Oh man, I can't wait to live the Dark Knight holodeck. I don't know if I want to do that.
I was gonna say that might be a little scary.
Maybe like a nice beach relaxation day. Something
the Batman and Robin world I'll live in.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, I can't
60s
wait.
Batman.
So I see technology going far and beyond. Like the probably holodeck stuff probably
we
won't
can't
happen
even
in our
fathom
lifetime.
what's going to be.
Yeah,
what's going to happen.
It's so crazy. Yeah.
So anyway, Infinity Blade.
Worth
checking out if you have an iOS device, or you can definitely check those out. I believe you can find. I don't recommend this, and I don't condone this either, but I'm sure you can find emulators on your computer that run them. Don't recommend it, but I'm sure, and I don't condone it, but I'm sure.
If you pay the money for it, then
it's not a strictly speaking sanctioned emulator by Apple.
Whatever. So interesting, and I've heard of Infinity Blade. I play a few mobile games, but like they're usually like licensed stuff that I just get sucked into because it's the license and not necessarily because it's a great game or anything. Yeah. So.
And it's something new too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these games also. I think the last one came out in 2013. I don't think there's been a new one.
Oh.
Really? Oh yeah. I think the last. Yeah, I think you're right.
I wouldn't be surprised if eventually Apple launches some new... This has essentially been their thing of launching new types of tech. We'll probably get, if Apple inevitably launches some new type of tech, they'll launch it with an Infinity Blade thing.
Apple, I think that's a very good subtitle for Apple. It's just Apple new types of tech. That's just...
Apple, you'll buy it whenever. Doesn't matter, you'll buy
it. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter, you'll buy it, Apple.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if... Because they have before, people don't know this, but Apple did have a gaming console. Yeah, it was.
Oh, you told me about this.
This was in the it was in the 90s, I believe. Yeah, it had to be the 90s. It was called the Apple Bondi Pippin. They partnered with Bondi to make the tech. There was originally going to be other manufacturers, but they all backed out except for Bondi. It ran the operating system of classic Mac OS. It was like a modified version of that, similar to how the Xbox One runs a modified version of Windows 10. Okay. That's how the Pippin ran. I believe it ran on floppy disks. Sounds
about right.
The information on the Pippin is really hazy because there were barely any released in the United States, and they were ridiculously expensive because they were priced like computers and not like game consoles. So nobody bought them. They did, and even if you look on eBay nowadays, if you find an American model, it is ridiculously expensive. You can only ever find the Japanese model, and most of the time, I'm a little hazy on whether or not those are actually official things, most of the time. So the Pippin, complete side note, I know, but it's a really fascinating piece of Apple history because
Bandai Namco's.
Yeah, almost nobody knows about it, and next to the Newton, it's the most laughed at piece of Apple technology.
Neat. Yeah. Bandai Namco should have never gotten into the console market.
And a cool piece of history with that, there's a series called Marathon. It was Bungie's precursor to Halo. Yeah. And Marathon 1 and 2 had a dual pack release on the Apple Bondi Pippin. It's the only console release those games ever had.
Really?
Yeah, impossible to find, even if you search on eBay.
Crazy.
I can't find it, but yeah.
Well, that was a neat little technology discussion. Yeah. I'm gonna sort of slow down focus us in a little bit more. I'm gonna continue my Kingdom Hearts 3 hype train. I'm gonna talk about 2 Kingdom Hearts games. One is easily the worst game in the series, and the other is the second worst game in the series.
Oh, right.
Expectations are really high on this one.
Yeah, so the first one, Chain of Memories and Re-Chain of Memories and Re-Chain of Memories Reverse Rebirth. Because it's like, the thing with Chain of Memories is it was originally a Game Boy Advance game, and then it was like released basically as to just tide fans over between 1 and 2. It's still incredibly story relevant, but it's sort of mostly to tide fans over into as they were waiting for 2. And then they ported it to PS2 when they were making Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and they included it in like a dual pack. And Chain of Memories always had a dual storyline of you play as the series protagonist Sora, and then after you play that one, you unlock a second storyline where you play as the series, like his version of if Sora is Naruto, Sasuke, Riku, who basically, especially in the first game, fulfills the Sasuke archetype. He evolves in a crazy different way. Like the character arcs between Riku and Sasuke are basically, there's no similarity. It's just like in the first game, there's a very strict like shonen anime parallel between those two, whereas like in later games they just sort of do away with that. Yeah. Chain of Memories has a fantastic Kingdom Hearts story. The gameplay is trash. Like, it is... I picked it up because I was like, if I'm going to talk about it, it's been a really long time since I've played this game. I should probably just pick it up, give it a few hours. If I don't like it, then I don't like it, and that's that. I got through the tutorial fight. And then I did a random encounter. And I was like, you know what? I don't like this game. I'm not gonna play it. And that was my. And I was just thinking, like, yeah, this tutorial fight wasn't so bad, and neither was the random encounter. Like, in and of itself, I didn't think those 2 fights I had any real gripes. But I knew with the combat and the way that the combat works in that game, because it's very different from Kingdom Hearts in that it's a real-time card game, basically. So the idea is that you have these cards on rotation that all have different values, and so you basically select them as your attacks. And then you have enemies floating around, and then you're basically playing Kingdom Hearts from there. Like, you just select the cards, and those are your Kingdom Hearts attacks. The problem is, the enemy can break your attack if they have a higher value, or if you have a 9 and they play a 0, then they break you there.
Throwback, just a side note here. Throwback to an episode from a couple weeks ago, the Metal Gear Acid games, which I talked about, are exactly the same types of gameplay.
Really?
You said there. Yeah,
really?
There's 2 of them. They're just like that.
Did you like those games?
I didn't play them. So.
I would not recommend Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Maybe Metal Gear does a better job of it. I have no way of knowing. Yeah. So, like, again, when you're fighting random mobs, the game is fine, I think, because it's just sort of a basic Kingdom Hearts game with a little bit more of a convoluted system, is basically what it is. But when you're fighting bosses, and they can basically counter everything you do, and they're super overpowered. Like, when I first played the game, I basically cheated my way through it. Like, I used an action replay, I just, got myself all of, the best cards and stuff, and just did that. Whereas playing through it legitimately, I could not get through it. And I think that just speaks to the fact that it was a poor game design. I wish when they had ported it that they had just done it with the Kingdom Hearts 1 engine and just done a traditional Kingdom Hearts game, but with a different maybe level design. Again, the story is really good. It's super relevant, so I recommend anybody, after they play 1, to just cutscene out Chain of Memories. Go on YouTube, or there are plenty of websites that have like playthroughs of it that you'll understand the series just fine. Because what happens in Chain of Memories directly bleeds over into what happens in 2, and a lot of the other Kingdom Hearts games as well. Like I would almost argue that Chain of Memories has more ramifications for the entire series than even Kingdom Hearts 1 does. So
it's interesting because like I can only ever think of 2 series, because most of the time when you have a major series, the games that get released on handheld consoles or mobile titles usually have nothing to do with the overarching narrative.
Nope.
Whereas Kingdom Hearts, it seems like whenever I was looking at the narrative, I'm like, this looks like it's important. And I can't. And like the only other thing I can think of, again going back to Metal Gear, the Peace Walker for PSP is massively important. And to showcase that point, Peace Walker on the PSP, if you didn't play that, Metal Gear Solid 5 is not going to make any sense. So it's
it reminds me of that when you talk about how Chain of Memories was like this
you can skip Chain of Memories and make sense of what's going on in Kingdom Hearts 2, but you have more context, definitely. So Chain of Memories, watch the cutscenes, don't play the game. It's not a good game. Like again, the story is fantastic. It's really messed up if you think about it, because basically what happens is the moment Sora walks into Castle Oblivion, which is the setting of the game, he starts losing his memories and having them replaced with something else.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
dark.
really dark. Like
bit.
there are some really, really dark things that happen in that game, and then the Reverse Rebirth storyline with Riku is fantastic.
Is this kind of the game where the series transitioned more from being a Disney to a Square Enix?
Yeah. It was definitely at that moment you knew, like, people would have known playing the game originally, like, oh, this is not your typical Disney property anymore. So, whereas before, there were some things that maybe would have indicated that it wasn't a Disney property, but you couldn't really tell because it was very focused on the Disney princesses, and Maleficent was basically the main villain for most of the game.
I love hearing you talk about this because Taylor has no idea what Kingdom Hearts is. So when you're hearing this, Taylor's like, what is this series?
Okay, so I know Kingdom Hearts. I know that it's Disney based, or at least some of it was. And then,
it is. It's still Disney. Disney is a major part of it. Like there's no removing the Disney aspect of Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do it. Yeah, it's just in terms of themes and overarching story that this series takes a major shift with Chain of Memories.
It seems to be a very... It's also not a very Americanized style of gameplay.
Yeah.
These are very Japanese style games.
Yeah.
And a lot of
even
the
the storytelling is very Japanese too.
So I think that's most of the time why Disney doesn't market it here, because it's not a very
Disney
American
style.
Well, Disney
they're
style
starting to become more involved.
Yeah, they are, especially with 3. 3 seems to be marketed heavily here, but like those earlier ones, I remember I didn't even know what Kingdom Hearts was, other than seeing like the box art in a secondhand Goodwill or something like that.
Yeah. See, I knew it from a friend back home, but that's it, and I was like, "What is this?" It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I would recommend almost. You're gonna miss out on some great games if you do this, but if you just want to like get a really convoluted but still emotional and awesome storyline, I'd recommend watching the cutscenes, because it's the first game has a bit of a lame hero's journey storyline. Like if the first Kingdom Hearts game was the only game in the series, it would not be like, I would not think it's a great series or even just a great game that's worth your time. I think watching it and then watching the rest of the series is worth your time. So to transition a little bit, the second worst game in the series. And I'm actually not that sure that this is actually the second worst game in the series. But one of the second worst games in the series, I guess, Recoded, has sort of the opposite problem that Chain of Memories has, in that it's actually a really, really fun game to play, especially like at higher levels. It is, I would almost argue, out of the command deck games, because in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 you have a more traditional RPG menu, and it's a action, and it's just like translated into an action sort of format. In Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, and Recoded, they have a command deck system where you have like your base attack, and then you have a set of commands that you can scroll through, and you just like equip different commands, and they all do different things. Like there are some commands where you just do like a giant arch and smack your keyblade down on somebody, and magic is all commands, so like fire, blizzard, all that. So it's actually a really fun game to play, especially because they vary up the systems a lot. Like, yeah, there are several instances of the traditional 3D Kingdom Hearts. Like, that's most of the game. But there are some instances where it's a turn-based action or turn-based role-playing game. There's side-scrolling stuff. There's I don't remember the other ones. I think there might be a shooter aspect of it. I don't remember. Don't quote me on the shooter thing, because I don't remember if it's actually there. But yeah, it's a really fun game to play. The story, at least as of right now, is not terribly relevant. In the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers so far, it seems like it's becoming more important to at least know what happens in the game. But when it came out especially, everybody was like, why is this being released? Yeah. Like, why do I care? The other
why do I care?
the other DS game, you do care.
Because Dream Drop Distance.
No. 358 Days Over 2 is the other DS game. Dream Drop Distance was the 3DS game.
Oh, okay.
That game is super important. Like, you have to play that game before you play 3. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
The timeline seems so confusing in this series. Like,
I can give you a pretty base chronological order.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna exclude the mobile games because those take place like far before.
Mobile as in like cell phone games? Or
yeah,
like
the cell phone. Games? Yeah, the cell phone games. Okay. So like there are a few mobile and browser based games that are like super prequels.
But they're not really part of.
Yeah, well they are. They're important, but they're like, I'm not including them because they're not part of this huge arc of the main console games.
Yeah.
They're
like,
important.
If you miss them, you're gonna be completely lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Birth by Sleep is the first chronological game. Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, and 358 Days Over 2 sort of run parallel with each other, because Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days is like, it starts towards the end. The storyline starts towards the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, runs parallel a little bit with Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, and then ends right before the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2. Okay. And then you have Kingdom Hearts 2, Recoded, Dream Drop Distance, and now 3.
Okay.
That's the chronological timeline of.
Why was there such a long wait between the games? Like, why is 3 taking so long?
I don't know.
Like,
I legitimately don't know. I think, well, so 3 is the8 of an arc that Tetsuya Nomura has been building up since 2. 2 or Birth by Sleep, I guess. One of those two. And he's had to do a lot of setup. Yeah. And Dream Drop Distance was basically his setup game. Like, he basically plainly told us what is going to happen in Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen in Kingdom Hearts 3. Because basically all my expectations have been shattered at this point. Like, I legitimately, every time I watch a Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer, I'm like, wait, that breaks this theory that I had. Yeah. Like, I don't know. And then the box art got released, and it has so many characters that I thought there was a chance I'd never see again, and all of those things. So but Dream Drop Distance very well lays out, here is what to expect in Kingdom Hearts 3. Here is what is going to happen at the end is this. And it's going to turn out some way, and you don't necessarily know what the details of that picture are, but you have a little bit of a picture. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a blurry image, basically.
All right.
So, yeah. Chain of Memories, bad game, good story, Recoded. Recoded, the movie is actually pretty good. Like, I actually like it sort of on its own, but it's not terribly relevant to the series, so take it or leave it, I guess. I'd recommend watching the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Part 2 of the countdown complete, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Our guest next week has actually played 1. He skipped Chain of Memories and watched the cutscenes in 2. And he's also playing through Birth by Sleep right now. I think he's watched the 358/2 cutscenes as well. So we'll actually be able to have an intelligent conversation about it.
Next week is essentially going to just be all Halloween and then Kingdom Hearts 2.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah. So we're going to move on. Let me type in this time code real quick. But since we have gone so long, we're going to, instead of each of us having our own topics, we're instead going to blend all of those, except yours has nothing to do with animation. I guess Steven Spielberg.
I can bring my movie I was going to bring up next week. I think it'll still fit.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to do Disney animation. Big Hero 6 is my favorite movie of all time, so it's my favorite Disney movie, or at least Disney animated movie.
It's a great movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
It's my favorite animated Marvel movie. And yes, audience, Big Hero 6 is a Marvel movie.
It's a Marvel movie.
Most people don't know
Your
that,
mind
but
has been blown
based on a Marvel comic.
It even has Stan Lee in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a Marvel movie.
And you can also see, and it's also very much a Disney movie, because you can see Prince Hans on a statue in Fred's yard.
Sounds about right. So that actually brings up a question. You know the theory that all of the Disney princess movies are all in the same universe? Mm-hmm. You think that Big Hero 6 is part of that universe?
I think not just as princesses, but every animated Disney movie is part of the universe.
You think that Big Hero 6 is part of it?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm okay with that.
Because I think the fact they've removed it from the Marvel universe and put it in the Disney universe.
I'm okay with that. I think I would also be cool if it was like, man, I'd be so cool with like a Disney princess crossover movie.
No, I would
and like,
well, it's kind of what Wreck-It Ralph 2 is going to be.
Man, what if Big Hero 6 is in Wreck-It Ralph? That'd be awesome.
Oh, I think it's going to be.
Baymax is
You're
actually
going
a
to
Disney
see
princess.
Baymax. I think, talking about Disney animation, Big Hero 6 is definitely one of my favorites. I think that is great. I really did enjoy the first Wreck-It Ralph. It was a pretty good.
Yeah, I really like Wreck-It Ralph 1.
But for me, most of the time, if we're talking about Disney animation, inevitably you're going to have to bring up Pixar. Yeah. I think Pixar has one-upped Disney animation in almost every way.
I don't know. So the old Disney animated movies like Mulan, Little Mermaid,
the 90s Renaissance.
Yeah. I don't think Toy Story and Toy Story 2 are much better.
Yeah. So I could be partly affected based on childhood nostalgia, because I grew up more on early Pixar than I did on early Disney.
I definitely watched a lot of Disney princess movies.
And mine was Pixar, for sure.
For me, if I'm going to I would rather watch The Incredibles than any of the early Disney movies. Like, I think The Incredibles is a near perfect film. And what I enjoy about Pixar movies that not every Disney movie has is Pixar movies, while they are definitely kids movies, they are accessible. They're actually, take that back. They're not kids movies. They are movies made for adults that are watchable by kids. Yeah. I think they are, like we were talking, I can't remember what we were talking about this earlier.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah. It's a property that anyone can watch and everyone's going to get something different out of it. That being said, it's it's got moments for everybody in it. So The Incredibles, you have the moments with Jack that the kids are gonna laugh at.
Yeah.
But then you've also got these questions about morality and the past going on.
Like going against the law.
Yeah, it's like there's so much layers. There's so many layers to it that when you watch something like Frozen, there's not that many layers to Frozen.
Yeah.
It's
that's true, but Frozen is awesome. Like that, like. So people who know me know I love Frozen. I think for one thing, I really like the fact that it subverts the Disney princess trope of spoilers, the prince kissing the princess and it all being okay. I really like that the true love scene at the end is Elsa hugging frozen Anna. I thought that was really well done because the whole movie, everybody is like, oh, true love will fix everything. Yeah. And
it's like true love, but it's a different type.
Yeah, it's a different kind of true love, and I really liked that. Not to mention, Let It Go is iconic. I don't see how they top Let It Go, I'll be honest.
Also, complete side note, I just have to get this out before I forget it. That shot where the sword almost comes down on Anna's frozen hand reminds me of when Jaime Lannister catches the sword with his gold.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't know why that just popped into my head, but okay.
And when Hans turns out, I thought Hans was a really good villain because he manages to. So the first thing he does is he puts on this facade that he's just this like nice prince and he's here for fun, I guess. Like they're opening up the door. Do you remember? It's like Anna's birthday. Is that what they're celebrating?
It's Elsa's coronation.
It's coronation day.
Oh, that's right. Elsa's coronation.
You got so excited. You're like, it's Elsa's coronation day.
So he's there to celebrate with them. Is his facade. And he and Anna meet, and presumably it's just sort of an innocent meeting, and boom, they're ready to get married like that. And the first thing that Anna does is like, you just met this guy. Do you think you really want to marry him?
That's what Elsa does.
Yeah, that. I feel like Elsa is really like. She's a really great Disney princess, even though Anna is also a Disney princess. But she is a great Disney princess because she's there as like an actual hero rather than like the princess
waiting
that needs saving.
Yeah, and I think something great about Elsa too is she's totally. I feel like in a way she's lost her innocence. She knows what the world's like. She knows what she's capable of. She's like the Disney princess version of Oliver Queen.
Yes, that's what she is.
That's like basically who Elsa is.
And going back to the Disney theory about them all being in the same universe, you can see Rapunzel and Flynn Rider at her coronation.
Oh man.
Okay, that made me so happy because I love.
Yeah, especially because they had she had the brown hair from Tangled.
And allegedly, in one of the theories I heard, because you can see how Elsa and Anna's parents go down in that shipwreck, that allegedly that Tarzan is their brother, and that's crashing. The ship crashes, and Tarzan's actually.
Whoa, dude! And then that ship is also the one that Little Mermaid, the prince from Little Mermaid, is on.
And then like Little Mermaid, we have like Hercules and Ariel.
That ship crash is like the inciting incident in the Disney.
It is essentially universe. It's like the nexus point. Like it all sprouts out from that ship crash.
Cool to see how like those Disney movies, like the princess movies, all come together. Because before we had this discussion, I was like, "There's no way they're in the same universe," and I'm like, "Oh there's things that connect."
Yeah, there are little things like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that connect them. Marvel Cinematic Universe was way more obvious, like from the start. Right. They were obviously never planning a Disney Cinematic Universe. That's not a thing.
Part of how this works and how they can retroactively tie them together is you don't see a huge amount of the world in each of these movies.
Yeah.
You just hear, this kingdom is marrying somebody from this kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, like, you don't hear a lot about it.
Well, and Tarzan is in the jungle.
Yeah.
Somewhere where it's just in the jungle.
So, like, theoretically, they can build out this world and you don't have to know anything. It's just...
Man, I would be so happy if there was like a Disney princess crossover where it's like this evil, like the evil fairy godmother, and then like she like teams up with some evil prince, and they like try to like kidnap one of the princesses or something, or like they kidnap. Yeah, basically. That'd be so good.
Like an online MMO where you can go into all the different Disney worlds.
Oh man, that'd be
like
sick.
kind of like how you have a Kingdom Hearts of different Disney worlds, but you just go in and they all exist on the same.
That'd be sick.
Like kind of like what they did with Cartoon Network Fusion Fall, but just with all the other characters there.
For me, it's kind of like I'm gonna bring up Minecraft with like Harry Potter, like you know how like they build the Harry Potter castle in Minecraft. It's kind of like that would be cool to go in the different castles of Disney, and also
Tron.
Oh, Tron.
Also Tron. I had to shout out Tron.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's how the Disney Cinematic Universe happens. Are you ready?
All right.
So Wreck-It Ralph ends up in that cabinet. In that cabinet. And then what happens is that Wreck-It Ralph goes back with Sam to the real world. So now he's in the real world. But it's like an animated real world.
Yeah.
And that real world is the same one as all of the Disney princess movies.
Oh, man.
And then the whole movie is like a buddy travel movie where they all just go to the different Disney's
universes. Coming after you now.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that they're on the internet, what happens now they're all on the internet? They jump into Disney's streaming service and they all reside in there. Yes. So everybody's in there.
Yes. And then the end credits scene is like the one at the end of Iron Man 2.
Nick Fury busts
out. But instead of Nick Fury, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. And it's just like, there's a whole universe out there you don't know about. And that's the end.
That's how we end. And then the sequel to that movie, you see Luke Skywalker pops up.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like mind blowing.
No. Instead of Tony Stark, it's Yoda.
Oh yeah, Yoda.
It's Yoda.
Yeah.
It's
Yoda sitting on Hulk's shoulder.
Yoda
sitting on Hulk's shoulder, and then they just both say, it's like, there's a universe you do not know. Just like,
universe you know not.
Universe you know not of. Oh, I want this movie now. I'm gonna do this.
It could be the worst movie ever, and I would still love it.
Well, and if they did this in animated form, it'd be working better. Even that was not a coherent sentence.
Yeah, but I want to go back to how the Disney universe, how they connect, because you see the same thing with Pixar, with all those different little Easter eggs and cameos.
However, the Pixar theory is a lot more loose than the Disney theory.
It's up for interpretation.
Yeah. Especially because, like, how does Cars fit? Like,
well,
I know how Cars fits. It's a post-apocalyptic world.
But it's like, how did we get from, like, let's say something like Toy Story or like A Bug's Life?
Yeah.
And whereas like
post-apocalyptic Cars,
the Disney theory all takes place relatively around like the same time, whereas something like the Pixar theory spans like millions of years in that theory.
Man, I really want that Disney cinematic universe now.
And like every property Disney owns, and now that they have 20th Century Fox, how much is going to be in this universe?
Literally, if you're sitting in the theater and this ever happens, you're literally just gonna like sob and you're gonna have to leave because your mind's gonna just.
I will not be able to physically handle this.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm just imagining like a buddy cop movie, but with Tron and Wreck-It Ralph. Just that by itself. That by itself would be awesome. But that in like the Disney princess world. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just imagine the shot here. Okay. You know that shot of Thor where he lands in Wakanda in Infinity War?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Wait. Yeah.
Imagine that shot, but instead of rocking on the shoulder, you've got Yoda sitting on top there, and then you've got, Tron in the place of Groot down there, and they all run forward, and you've got
Thanos has no chance.
Thanos has got no chance. He's got Yoda, man.
Yeah. Especially if you bring, like, Mulan into there, and she's just fighting with, like...
so awesome.
Imagine a giant Infinity War-style battle scene of just every Disney character running forward.
And Thanos is just crying because it's such a beautiful sight.
I want, like, the Disney crossover with Avengers, and I really want an action scene with an army from China and Wakanda.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And like Mulan and Black Panther fighting alongside one another. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, that makes me so
excited. Cap leading, like he's like doing leading.
Yeah,
the show
and Yeah, they do the thing where like all three of them run faster than everybody. Oh yeah.
Because I do think
I want
that could also be possible now that we have like a live action Mulan coming out, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Especially because there's going to be no music and they're taking out Shang Li. Is that the character?
I don't know. It's been so long.
Or Li Shang?
Li Shang. What?
It's one of those.
Wait, the captain?
Yeah.
You're forgetting the most obvious one. Imagine Iron Man and Buzz Lightyear flying next to each other.
Yo, that would be so good.
You see those two? They're just flying over Wakanda.
So and then I'm trying to think of anything else. Woody and
Lone Ranger. I don't know.
I was thinking Lone Ranger. I was like,
I'm trying to think of something else that'd be awesome. Elsa and Scarlet Witch.
Oh, that would actually
sick.
be cool.
That'd
be cool.
Thor.
Elsa and Iceman, I guess, because that's X-Men now. We got that now.
Elsa, Iceman, and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, and I could say who would Anna and Rogue. They kind of similar.
Anna and Rogue.
Yeah.
Groot and.
Groot and really anybody. I mean, Groot's
That's
awesome.
true.
I can only picture Groot and like Mushu.
No, Groot
and Mushu.
Or like Pascal.
Yes.
Groot and Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph. That would work well too.
Yeah.
That would work perfectly.
And Hulk and Wreck-It Ralph, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
Hulk
a
and
given.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Tron and Cap.
Tron and Cap. Or
I think Tron and Cap.
Yeah, Tron and Cap would work well. Or do we mean Kevin Flynn and Cap? Because I think that would work well too.
I prefer Tron.
Yeah, Tron.
Because Kevin Flynn is like...
Yeah.
He's lame.
Also, Korra.
Yeah, sure.
Korra and Scarlet Witch
Korra...
from Tron Legacy.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sure,
Took
yeah.
us a minute.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to... Yeah, I don't remember her name. I love the movie, don't remember
Olivia
her name.
Wilde's character.
And I think an obvious one too is Hawkeye and Merida.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's...
Hawkeye,
It's a
Merida.
given.
And we find a way to get a deal. We expand this universe even more. We get Oliver Queen in there, too. You are an excuse.
Yes.
Disney buys
All of
everything.
Marvel, all of Disney, all of Pixar combined.
Okay.
All of WB, just everything.
Disney,
This
you
is
now
my
know how to
ultimate
get my
future.
money. You
Yeah.
know?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how to get me to buy like 10 movie tickets just for one screening.
Yeah.
That's like how
If they
I like
had a way of the crossover of DC, and I see Batman and Iron Man on the same shot,
And then Superman and Captain America.
I give up. Like,
Yeah.
I can't. Like,
it's over at that point. Which they tried to do that crossover comic. Side note, they tried to do that crossover comic. They did it once, and it was like superhero versus superhero, and they never did it again.
It's like work together to defeat all the villains.
But and other
Yeah.
crossovers too. Like Batman's fought the Predator before. Like that's
Yeah.
like it's like why are we doing
This is actually something that I've been thinking about as sort of a side note. If I was ever to be commissioned for some reason to like write a mega crossover where I could choose any franchises that I want, my pick would be since super speed is my favorite thing, I do a crossover between The Flash, Sonic the Hedgehog, Naruto's dad from Minato, because he's like a teleporter, but he's like the fastest in the whole Naruto universe. And then like Quicksilver, and I was thinking Ruby Rose from Ruby, because her whole thing is that she has like this super speed capability.
Yeah.
And then
I thought you meant like Ruby Rose the actress.
Oh,
I was
no.
like,
No. And then it's them versus like all of their counterpart villains.
Oh,
and it's called True Speed.
Oh, you gotta throw Dash from Incredibles in there.
Oh yeah, that's
That
incredible.
and there's gonna be a deep cut reference.
Oh,
The
no.
episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob has super speed powers.
Oh,
you gotta throw
God.
that.
Yes.
Was he running that
That's
rock?
a
Was he
he's a
running-
cameo.
Oh yeah, he's a cameo.
He's the
end
Nick
credits scene.
Fury
He's the Nick Fury.
cameo.
It's like, want to see me run into that rock? Want to see me do it again?
Like,
It's so
Oh,
good.
gosh.
Okay, well, this is not Disney movies at all.
No.
Yeah.
Theoretical Disney movies.
That'd be so good.
Yeah.
But it was a really good
Yeah.
discussion, I would
Yeah.
say. This is the future, man. This is the future.
So let's end it on top 3 Disney movies.
Are we counting
Oh,
Pixar?
boy.
We can count Pixar.
Or let's do them separate. Favorite Disney, favorite Pixar.
Okay, so top 3 Pixar for me, Cars 1, Toy Story 2, Incredibles is Pixar.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One of the Incredibles movies. I haven't seen the first one in a while. I really like the second one, but
For me, it's probably... We'll just do Pixar around and Disney
Yeah.
around. It's definitely Incredibles is number 1. then probably Finding Nemo, and then oddly enough, I think I'm gonna go with Toy Story 2.
Really?
Yeah, I love the trilogy, but for me, Toy Story 2 is
Toy Story 2 is, I think, the best movie.
Like, as a kid, that's always the go-to one. Because
it does a really cool job of expanding the Toy Story universe and also focusing in on Woody.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, Toy Story 1 has some focus issues with Woody and Buzz. Yeah. Like, their relationship is good, but, like, the two stories running parallel to each other don't necessarily work as a movie.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love all three of them. I think all three are perfect movies. But I think the first one, some of the animation hasn't aged as well.
It's scary, man.
Yeah.
I have nightmares about Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the mean kid is so creepy looking.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There was some serious Uncanny Valley issues going on with that person. But, I mean, the fact that they were able to get it done in 1995. Yeah. Also, do you know who was the producer on that film?
No.
Steve Jobs.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
crazy.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
The world crosses over into its own crossover movie.
So Pixar originally started as Lucasfilm something, Lucas whatever.
That's right. I forgot it was a Lucasfilm subsidiary.
And eventually George Lucas sold it off to Steve Jobs, where Steve Jobs created it as rebranded it as Pixar, and then essentially Disney didn't buy him originally. Toy Story was not a Disney movie originally. It was just a Pixar film.
Wow.
And Disney didn't want another competitor. So after, I believe, it was either Toy Story 2 or Finding Nemo, Disney bought Pixar.
Wow.
And then those movies were all rebranded as Disney Pixar.
I mean, I knew that Disney had Pixar, but I didn't know that.
So that's why in the original one, I don't believe you see George Lucas's name in the credits, but Steve Jobs' name is in the credits.
Neat.
In the opening.
Taylor?
Yeah. Number one for sure, Monsters, Inc.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot. Oh,
I was so surprised you didn't say that. I was like, interesting.
See, that's what's so hard about Pixar.
They have just so many movies you can't remember all of them.
Like there's no other studio other than maybe Marvel Studios that has been on such a great run. Like almost every single film has been a knockout. With the exception of some of the recent ones haven't been.
The Cars sequels.
The Cars movies.
Cars 3.
Cars 3 is actually pretty good.
I love Cars.
I like
That's
Cars
going to
3.
be on my top because knowing NASCAR, I know they actually partnered with NASCAR and there's actual like NASCAR drivers that voiced in Cars 3.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and
That's
so
cool.
they made sure that a lot of the history of NASCAR was in there, and they also made sure that it was accurate the way the cars were portrayed. So
that's cool.
That's probably my third favorite. My second favorite, gosh, I have to give it to Incredibles.
Yeah.
I have to say Incredibles is the second favorite.
Incredibles is really good.
So you say Cars 3 is your third favorite?
Cars 3 is my third favorite, yes.
And then it's Incredibles, and what's number one?
And then number one is Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc.
So. Okay.
I have to say for
Monsters
Pixar,
Inc. is really good.
1995 to about 2005, with the exception of A Bug's Life, is a perfect run.
Yeah, Bug's Life. Nope.
It's a perfect run, minus Bug's Life.
Minus Bug's Life.
After that, there are still good ones, like the first 15 minutes of Up, the rest is okay, and Toy Story 3.
Up is a really good movie.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it doesn't, the first 15 minutes overshadow the rest of that movie.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So Disney animation, top 3, let's see. Big Hero 6.
Same for me.
Same for me, actually.
I'm on a hard time picking 2 and 3.
I have to give it to Wreck-It Ralph for number 2, and let me think. I feel like it's a tie between Mulan and Frozen, almost. I'm gonna say Mulan. I think Mulan works. I think Mulan is more like my kind of Disney movie, whereas I love Frozen, but it's a really sort of herpy-derpy kind of movie where it's like, oh, we're gonna have some drama in the form of Ice Princess, whereas the Chinese sort of honor thing that Mulan is going through, and like her whole story is so well done in that movie that I think it just overshadows.
And there was also
else.
a lot of like, I feel like for at least Mulan, there was a lot more elements for adults. Like one thing that I was like, that is totally not Disney, is when I forget the bad guy's name in it. How do I not know this? But he was like, how many people does it take to carry back a message or something? And then they're like one, and they shoot the arrow at the guy. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Disney, hello.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's some dark stuff.
There's some dark stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, this is tough. See, I don't usually watch a ton of Disney animated movies.
You don't. It makes me sad.
Yeah, I think number one is definitely Big Hero 6. That's definitely number one.
It's so good.
Number two, see, I don't really like musicals, so it's kind of hard when I'm picking Disney movies because I don't really like musicals. Yeah, despite me just saying that, I think A Nightmare Before Christmas will probably be number two. It's a big step down below Big Hero 6. I thought the movie was good, but it's not Big Hero 6
I actually
level.
haven't seen Nightmare Before Christmas yet.
I do like the animation style. It was a little overhyped for me when I first saw it. I'm gonna have to watch it again without all that hype just to see how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Do you
We should
recommend
do that
it?
for Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably number two, and then number three. I don't know.
Oh, I'm gonna. Sorry, I have to swap Mulan for Tangled.
Oh man, that's my list.
Tangled is so
that's
good.
my list.
Can we pull up a list of like Disney animated movies?
Yeah.
Because I can't remember everything they've got. Like recently they had. What did they have? They had Big Hero 6. You know what? Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph's for number three. As of right now.
Animated.
We're going Big Hero 6.
Feature.
Nightmare Before Christmas, and then
animated canon. What the heck?
What did you say? Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Mine are basically similar to your list.
So, sorry. Here, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Off here.
Okay, mine is Big Hero 6, Mulan, also because you know the songs in that one.
Yeah.
Gold. And then Tangled, but then Sawyer mentioned Nightmare Before Christmas, and I'm like, ooh. So
Yeah.
it's
So
tough.
here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna list the filmography of Disney animated movies, starting with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So
Before
here we
do
go.
that, one thing I want to say before I forget
Yeah.
it. The Corpse Bride is a better movie than Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, wait.
It's the Tim Burton animation style. Corpse Bride is better. Don't at me.
So
Don't quote me,
so
but I
let's
think you're wrong.
let's get started on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs,
Okay.
Pinocchio, Fantasia. Dumbo is really good.
Pinocchio
It's been
Is this counting direct-to-DVD sequels? Or just theatrical release?
I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know. This is just the Wikipedia list.
Right.
It says Disney Animated Studios films. So,
Okay.
Dumbo is really good.
Can I go back to Pinocchio for a second?
Yeah.
I feel like that is the most messed up film of its time because literally
Probably.
kids turn into donkeys and it's like God, it's just scary.
Yeah,
I've never
that
liked
is
it.
Well,
messed
Dumbo
up.
also has the Jim Crow
Have I
crows.
seen-
True, yeah.
Have I seen the actual? I don't think I've actually seen Dumbo or Pinocchio yet.
Well, I would also say Disney's live
Don't
action
recommend.
movies during that era were a lot more. I don't know if they age now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you go back and watch Song
Oh
of the
no!
South.
Half of these movies probably don't age very well. I'll be honest.
Well,
Until we get to like
I
the
forgot the Rescuers.
'60s.
Well, and Warner Brothers animated movies got a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you look at some of the old.
Oh
movie
yeah,
tunes,
those were just
Rescuers
flat
was
out racist.
Okay.
I love Rescuers. That would probably be number 4 for me.
So sorry, we have to keep
Oh, yeah,
going.
we gotta keep
We're
going.
like
Keep
way
going.
over.
Let's count the Nazi
Saludos
Donald Duck.
Amigos is 42. Bambi was
Bambi.
before Saludos Amigos. The Three Caballeros.
That's the one where Donald
Donald
Duck
Duck.
and the
Make Mine Music.
which make my music. Oh, is that the Nazi Donald Duck?
I don't. No. That's a different one.
Yeah, World War II version.
Fun and Fancy Free. Melody Time. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Cinderella. Don't forget Cinderella.
Mhm.
Cinderella is really good. I really like Cinderella. Alice in Wonderland. Peter Pan. Lady and the Tramp. Sleeping Beauty. 101 Dalmatians, Sword in the Stone, Jungle Book, Aristocrats, Robin Hood. Robin Hood. Robin Hood is really good. I really like Robin
I
Hood.
haven't ever seen that.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a really good rendition of
Is
the
it better than the
Robin
Gerard Butler version?
Hood.
Ooh.
I have no idea. I don't think I've seen that one. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh,
Oh, I forgot that one.
The Rescuers, The Fox and the Hound, The Black Cauldron, The The Great Mouse Detective.
Everybody forgets about this era. 80s Disney animated movies, most people forgot about.
Oliver and Company, except for the one movie they didn't forget about, Little Mermaid.
Oh, yeah. That was 93, wasn't it? Oh, 89.
No, 89, yeah. Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. Ooh. Oh. Aladdin, man.
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
That one is so good.
Yeah, that's good.
Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback.
That didn't age well. Pocahontas did not.
Nope.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules,
That's
Mulan,
cool.
Tarzan, Fantasia 2000, in 2000, Dinosaur, The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
That movie's not bad.
Lilo and Stitch is great.
Oh, I forgot Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo
If I could make a top 10 list with a lot of things tied for one, I would.
Yeah.
Well, and Atlantis:
Lilo
Lost
and
Empire, everybody
Stitch.
forgets about it. It's a good movie. Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Treasure Planet,
That's good,
That's
too.
good.
Brother Bear.
Oh. That was my childhood movie.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I actually don't think I've seen that one. Home on the Range.
Oh.
That movie's not good.
Chicken Little.
Chicken Little.
Are we gonna have to argue about Chicken Little?
Okay.
I really like Chicken
It
Little.
has been way too long. I can't judge. I enjoyed it. I remember enjoying it, but it's been way too long.
Bothers me. That's
Okay.
it.
Meet the Robinsons.
Oh my gosh.
So not
that is a
vaguely
family
remember
movie.
it.
I really like Meet the Robinsons.
Also, screw it. We're just gonna go over because I still have stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah. Bolt. I really like Bolt.
Yeah, that's the Miley Cyrus one, right?
Yeah, she.
Yeah, she did the voice of the girl.
I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, I remember enjoying the beginning. That's all I remember. It's been way too long for most of these.
In the middle of it bothers me because it's like there's a new Bolt. And I'm like, oh, just the plot lines of so many things bother me. You know.
I know.
Yeah.
Sure. Whenever there's conflict in a movie, she's also conflicted.
Yeah.
The Princess and the Frog has not had a good legacy.
Wasn't
I
as
think.
successful as I think it could have
Well,
been.
I mean, it was also Disney's first Black princess, so it does kind of have a
Yeah,
legacy
well,
to it.
I think that's actually the issue that people take with it. Is not that it was their first Black princess, but it was like a racist sort of thing. But
Well, 'cause it was
I
I'm
do
not.
like
bi or
Tiana,
whatever.
though.
I'm not a good person to speak.
Yeah,
to
I
that,
also never
so.
saw the movie, so I can't judge.
I remember.
I like the movie.
I remember liking the movie when I saw it, but I can't really speak to the rest of it. So here we go. Tangled,
Tangled? Okay.
Winnie the Pooh, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia. Oh frick! Oh, I love Zootopia.
I actually never saw it.
You never saw Zootopia?
No.
And then
It's-
Moana.
It's actually I kind of like Zootopia. Not gonna lie. Also because the lady who plays Judy Hopps, is that what that is? She was in a TV series I really like called Once Upon a Time.
What's her name with Judy Hopps again?
It's the bunny.
No, I know what the actress's name.
Oh, the actress.
I'll look. I
Yeah,
have
please
the-
look that
I
up
have
because
the
I
page.
love
Also, was
her and
Zootopia
her
the
husband
last
Josh
one?
Dallas.
No, and then Moana.
Oh, Moana. Okay. I saw like the first 45 minutes of Moana.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually watched Moana all the way through yet.
I like it. There's aspects of it I don't, but I do like the music in it. But that's also because I like.
Jennifer
Lynn.
Goodwin,
Yeah.
who plays Snow White in Once
In
Upon a Time.
which I love that show, and then it just kept.
I thought you were gonna say
grinding on.
Rose McGowan.
Yeah,
I was
it-
just go, ugh.
Jason Bateman as the fox.
I like him.
I like him. Idris Elba as Chief Bogo is
really like him.
fantastic.
Also,
This cast is
like
fantastic.
Disney for me, modern 3D animated Disney movies, I don't really like their animation style. Like Pixar, I don't really like the animation style either, but
Sorry.
they get a pass for it because their stories are so good.
Sorry, I just have to point this out. J.K. Simmons is the mayor of
Okay,
Zootopia.
that's perfect.
Oh,
That's
okay.
They're like
Um,
the Disney animation style. It's not poorly done
I like it.
animation. I think it serves its purpose. It just doesn't blow me away. Like for example, when I watch something like let's give an example, something like the animated DC movies they did, or like for example, Ghost in the Shell. The amount of detail in the Ghost in the Shell movie blows me away. It's got these layers to it, and it feels like a lived-in world. These Disney animated movie worlds feel like the world is there to serve the characters in the story. It doesn't feel like its own world.
yeah.
And that's kind of the criticism I have most of the time with these movies. It feels like, oh, this place just happens to exist because this character needs to be here. It doesn't feel like it's naturally there.
Man, Big Hero 6.
But it doesn't necessarily detract from the quality of the movies. It just thinks that as an animated thing, there's no bad animation. I just don't enjoy the animation as much as the other styles. Also,
wait a sec.
we have to address, we haven't done Disney live action yet. This does not count properties they own. So no Muppets, no Star Wars, and no Marvel.
No, but that was going to be my top.
The Muppets can count. I'm talking about the ones that they own prior to that. So like the 2011 one counts in the Muppets Most Wanted. But like stuff like we can't count like Muppet Christmas Carol because that's not a Disney
one
movie.
I mentioned.
That's not a Disney movie.
I know, but it's Muppets.
Okay, if we're going by that logic, then I can say Star Wars is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Okay.
See,
If we're going by that logic, well, Big Hero 6 is still my favorite.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not and then people are gonna like hate me for saying this, but I'm not a big fan of Disney's live action.
Most of the time, I'm not.
Let me look at their live action.
Okay. Now, mine is easy. Number 1, Tron Legacy. Number 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Mm-hmm. Number 3, you're gonna probably laugh at me for this, but John Carter.
Really?
Yeah, John Carter is actually a really good movie, but it flopped because one, the trailers did not advertise that the movie really is. 2, Disney should not have been in the studio to pick up that movie, and 3, the film just was not really ever going to be a box office smash. They wanted it to be the next Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wait, they're making
and
a
it ended up being
Maleficent
more
2?
like a Star Wars.
Yeah. It's your wait, didn't they already come out with Maleficent 2?
No.
Oh, well.
No, that's a 2020 joint.
Okay, now, the worst Disney live-action movie that I've seen, and not talking about whether or not things have aged well or not, Lone Ranger. Movie's garbage.
I would have to say, it's not that it's my least favorite. I'm totally going to diss my sister here, but she loves The Parent Trap. And I just...
Oh, wait, the Lindsay Lohan one?
Yeah, Lindsay
Okay,
Lohan.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, I used to love that movie.
I know, I did, but then there's also, like, things I'm noticing. I'm like, you guys have the same face. How do you not know your sisters?
Also, well, I can't buy Lindsay Lohan in the cute little girl role anymore, based off of what she currently...
she messed it up a little bit.
Okay, but yeah, Disney live-action movies, other than John Carter, the Pirates movies, and the Tron movies, there's really nothing that I care about that they've done.
But I would have to say their animation has really killed the game for me. Like, they've done so well.
Yeah. That, and then, you know what? I'm just going to say screw it. Disney TV shows. Favorite one for me, I mean, when I was a kid, it was Zack and Cody. I watched Zack and Cody all the time.
Yeah, Zack and Cody was so good.
Specifically the first iteration of it.
Mm-hmm.
But people also don't know this most of the time because it only ran for one season and the time slots were so erratic. Tron, I believe it was called Tron Uprising. It was a cartoon on Disney.
Oh yeah, that was
cool. Actually really good. You can buy the
it's
full
got such
season.
a weird art style though.
It does grow on you though. You can buy the series on Amazon Prime Video. It's worth checking out if you're a Tron fan or just if you like cool animated.
I think it might be on Hulu.
And it's also, I think, part of why it did not do well on Disney XD. The show was not made for kids. Like, the kids can watch it, but the show is not like a kids show. It's very much it's almost like an anime. I think that's why it didn't do so well.
Yeah,
also,
I think you're right.
What
I've watched of it.
I'm going to count it because it aired on Disney XD specifically for it. Star Wars Rebels is actually really good. Mm. The first season...
I knew you were going to mention that at some point.
The first season is very hit or miss. The episodes later on, they're either really good or really bad.
Yeah,
There's
the moment I heard that
ones.
Spoilers, Darth Maul is in it, the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe I should take this show seriously.
And also, there's an episode, spoilers, where Maul and Kenobi fight, and it is one of the best Star Wars... Like, it's some of the best content Star Wars has put
It's a great scene.
Yeah. And also, Kanan Jarrus, he's fantastic. He's a fantastic character. The show, season 1... early on has some very hit or miss episodes. It's much more of a Disney show. As you get later into it, most of the time it's a great Star Wars show with like 2 or 3 episodes a season that are devoted to just being a kids episode. Like there's this one episode, and I think it's season 3, where the entire episode is just devoted to like them stealing some rocket fuel. But then there's like the Ugnaughts in Star Wars, the little like pig looking things.
Ooh.
There's one that's like in a suitcase or whatever, and they open it up and it's like giggling like this is not Star Wars. Like, but other than that, it's Resistance is currently going on, so I can't judge that yet.
My favorite Disney TV show is Daredevil.
Okay, well, I mean,
fight me.
Okay.
Overall, I would have to say, there's so much to talk about at Disney.
Oh
There's only so much time in the day.
It's crazy, right? We're going way over time. Apparently, we need a mod to keep us in check.
Yeah, I guess so.
The crazy thing about Disney is they legitimately rule the entertainment world.
Oh yeah.
Like there's like everything I care about is either Disney, WB, or like some random game studio. That's literally all of it.
The only rival that Disney has in terms of film and television is Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Because now that they have Fox, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The only rival they have is Warner Brothers.
Yeah, like Universal, they're going to keep putting out movies, but they're not going to be movies that people care about as much.
Universal, what else have they got? They've got Minions and Fast and Furious. So like that's really all they've got.
Minions.
Despicable Me is actually pretty.
Okay. Fast and Furious is incredibly stupid and dumb, but I love those movies.
Is DreamWorks owned by Universal?
I don't think so. Because I think Touchstone Pictures distributed their movies until 2016, and Touchstone is a subsidiary of Disney.
DreamWorks.
Everything's connected to Disney.
My God.
Yeah, really, when you look at it is. Like, did you know Pulp Fiction is technically a Disney movie?
Oh, they're Amblin partners, right?
Because Pulp Fiction was released under Miramax, and Disney owned Miramax when Pulp Fiction was released.
That's crazy.
Technically, if you work up the ladder well enough, all the early Tarantino movies are technically Disney movies.
Basically, Disney is taking over the world.
Kill Bill is a Disney movie.
It's
what?
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. DreamWorks still has How to Train Your Dragon, and How to Train Your Dragon 2 is a fantastic movie.
I love those movies.
Also,
the first one isn't as good. The second one is awesome.
The second one is really good.
I love the second one. I can't wait for How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Yeah. Also, Paramount,
Jeez.
all they have is Star Trek. That's really all they have. And Mission Impossible, I guess. Yeah.
Mission Impossible.
They used to have Indiana Jones, but Disney's got that now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The Disney Empire is upon us.
It's
happening.
Yeah, I think I remember talking about this last week. If Disney eventually buys Amazon, which they could.
They could.
I don't know why they would, but they could. I mean, you could see all sorts of reasons why they would.
Yeah.
But if they do, it will legitimately be a dictatorship.
And also,
like,
at
I'm
this
not
point,
even kidding.
they have a majority stake in Hulu. I don't know why they just don't turn Hulu into their own service. Because now that they bought Fox, that gives them another 30% of
money.
Well, yeah. So that means Disney's now got a 60% share based on their original 30, and now they have 20th Century Fox's 30%, which means I believe.
So they just own Hulu now.
I think Universal has 30%, and somebody else has 10%. I don't know who.
That doesn't. Oh yeah. Wait. 60.
30, 60, 90. So
Wait. Disney has how much?
Disney has 60 now.
Oh, 60 now with Fox.
With Fox.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought you were saying that they had 60, and then like there was 30 with, and then there was 30 that they were getting with Fox, and then Universal had 30, and I was like, that's how percentages work. Yeah. Disney. It's so crazy just thinking about like how much like we care about Disney movies.
Yeah.
My mom will often say like, you guys care so much about Marvel movies, and she's saying it like sarcastically because she doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, do you care about any movies? I don't know if she does or not.
Do you care about movies?
But like, do you care about things in entertainment? Do these things sort of like grip you? Do you care about these? How many of them are related to Disney?
And most people don't even know if things are related to Disney.
Yeah.
And I went up and said, hey, by the way, Pulp Fiction was released by Disney. I'm like, what? Yeah.
You'd have to explain yourself on that one.
Yeah.
But if I was like, hey, yeah, you know that show Daredevil on Netflix?
Disney
It's a Disney-owned property. And they'd be like, what?
Like, if I named off most of the things that by proxy Disney technically owns, including with Fox now.
Yeah.
Now, Disney now owns Alien and Predator. Well, if the deal goes through, and it's going to go through, we all know it's going to go through. That means that
because
Disney will
the
own
U.S.
Alien and
is
Predator.
stupid at monopolies.
Okay, well, they did have. It's not technically a monopoly.
Technically.
Because they got rid of. They don't get the Fox network, Fox News, or Fox Sports.
I mean, yeah. So. But it's still so much.
Yeah, also, they do get the FX networks, though. So, which means they also now own Archer. Apparently, that's the thing they're gonna have.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It is nice though because I feel like I can trust a lot of the head execs at Disney to actually make good decisions in terms of like the content that they're putting out.
Does that mean we're gonna get a Disney Simpsons movie?
I hope we never reach that day. Please no.
The Disney live action, or not the live action, but the Disney cinematic universe with the Simpsons.
Oh no!
The movie starts out and he's what's the I don't watch The Simpsons. What's the
Homer?
dad Homer Simpson is talking to Bart Simpson, and he tells him a story, and the story that he's telling him is the Tron Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, yeah, that's the best story.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Well, and in like the opening couch gag, it'll be them running through different Disney universes. It'll just be that.
Just shaking my head. Big ol' no.
No. Phineas and Ferb crossover with The Simpsons.
Also, does that mean they get Family Guy now too? Do they get Family Guy now? Question is, do they now own the shows that air on the Fox network?
I would have to say the real question is, what does Disney not own?
Well,
I feel like that is the
they won't own Star Trek.
They don't own Star Trek.
And we're forgetting about one other major property they don't own. Well, two really. They don't own DC Comics, and they don't have James Bond.
And they also don't have a ton of game franchises.
Well, yeah, gaming, which I think the success of Spider-Man is going to show Disney they're going to want to start buying up studios. Because
is scary.
Disney Interactive Studios, which they used to have, is shut down.
What if Disney buys Insomniac? They could. Ratchet and Clank would actually fit as a Disney property.
Does Ratchet and Clank belong?
Oh, I guess that's a
Insomniac,
Sony. That's a Sony joint. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. Yeah, like big things like Ubisoft, EA. Those are, I think, too massive. They're not going to buy those. I would not be surprised if something lower level gets bought out by them, or like do like a Microsoft thing where a bunch of lower level get bought out.
Yeah, I don't see Disney being able to buy Sony or Microsoft. I worry that they could buy Nintendo.
They could theoretically buy Nintendo.
Because Nintendo is so exclusively gaming. They don't have anything else. Like they for like movies and stuff that they'll do every once in a while, they have to license them out to other studios. Yeah. So I could see Disney like picking them up and being like,
I would see that happening, except for they did just make a licensing deal with Universal to have Nintendo themed rides at Universal Studios.
That's true.
So
you had some of that stuff in with like other Disney franchises at Universal.
Well, yeah, Parks, the Star Wars ride was at Disney before they owned Lucasfilm.
Yeah, so it could work out. I don't want them to buy Nintendo. I really don't want them to buy Nintendo.
I think other than that, I would not be surprised if, like, I don't know. I think really the only two that theoretically could happen, maybe Ubisoft, because they kind of have that whole we're kind of a cool image thing, and then maybe Sega, maybe.
Oh,
maybe.
Yeah, Sega. I think I think the big one for the pickings, if Disney wanted to buy studios or like publishers, is Sega, because I think Sega right now is just like floundering. The only thing they have keeping them afloat is Atlas. So like,
did you also know that Disney also owns Maker Studios, who also has the rights to PewDiePie content? So Disney owns PewDiePie.
Oh yeah.
Oh god.
Which
well, the Maker dropped him after the whole scandal.
Yeah.
But like that,
still the biggest YouTuber.
Yeah.
Owned by Disney.
Anybody who works with Maker Studios, Disney has control of their content.
Neat.
Which I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe we should start working for Maker Studios.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the dropping of PewDiePie from Maker Studios was a Disney decision.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think all in all, to summarize this up, Disney's taking over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time,
it's either them or our Lord and Savior Jeff Bezos.
But I'm also not as worried about it because Disney also is keeping. They have quality control. They're not going to put out a bad product.
that is the nice thing. Like if I don't want them to rule the world, but if somebody had to rule the world, I'm glad it's Disney.
Yeah. I would much rather they instead of Amazon.
Yeah, like, them instead of Amazon or WB for that matter.
Or Google.
Google would be.
Google's already got all the information anyway.
Pain. Yeah, that's true. Google, Facebook.
Oh, screw Facebook.
No. It's nice. It is nice to know. Like there is a lot of doom and gloom about like Disney taking over the world and all that. It's not actually true because the only things that they own are entertainment. Yeah, they're definitely taking over the entertainment industry.
Yeah, well, and I think really the only thing that's like not entertainment they own is like they have one news network. That's it. They have ABC. That's all they have.
Yeah, which is still sort of a media entertainment thing. Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So the nice part is, I guess we'll close out on a relatively high note.
No, they still do lobby Congress, but that's a whole other issue.
Well,
that's a whole other issue.
Yeah. They don't specifically have ownership of anything. Once we actually start to see them owning different industries, is when I think it's is when it will start to be worrying.
Well, it's going to be interesting is a streaming service. How is that going to affect monopolies there? If you have all of their library and all of Fox's library plus original content, and I'm sure there'll be licensing deals to get other people's content on there. That streaming service is essentially going to be your one-stop shop. Also, that Movies Anywhere app now that all these digital copies work on.
Jeez.
Guess who started that?
Amazon?
Yeah, it's a Disney product.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, Disney Movies Anywhere. I know it as
so
Disney
now
Movies
it's just
Anywhere.
Movies Anywhere, and it used to. Most studios are on board with it now. I believe it's just Paramount, Lionsgate, and there's one.
Probably WB.
No, MGM.
Oh.
Warner Brothers, I believe, is on board. I could be wrong, but it's MGM, Paramount, and Lionsgate are like the big three.
Okay. Lionsgate owns the Care Bears, right?
And Hunger Games.
Oh gosh.
And Twilight. So.
What a variety there.
And I think they also have Saw, maybe.
I think Lionsgate is doing pretty good for themselves.
Yeah. They also have
Care Bears.
Yeah.
When was the last Care Bears thing? Do you know?
I don't pay attention to Care Bears.
I know. I just was curious.
Paramount's doing good for themselves too. Mission Impossible, Star Trek, Transformers. Well, arguably Transformers, but it's making money.
Air quotes Transformers.
Why have we not got? Okay, this is gonna be a complete off-topic thing. Why is there?
We have to end on
Yeah,
this.
we have.
Like last thing, why is there not a G.I. Joe 3? Why is there not
because
a G.I. Joe
the
3?
first two are critically panned. And
Hey, the
were
second
not
one is not that
terribly
bad.
successful.
Okay, that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, so Disney, top tier company. I'd say it's like them, and then a media company, them, WB,
Valve,
and then Valve.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then Nintendo.
And then Nintendo. But Nintendo for completely different reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you give the audience the big news?
So we have some special news. We're on iTunes and Google Play.
Google Play Music. Yeah.
Google Play Music, I guess. Yeah, it's exciting. We were not expecting it to be this soon that we got on iTunes, but you can follow us on iTunes. Same thing. Search for the Cate-Cast. There are other things that are called the quote-unquote Cate-Cast.
So make sure you put Cate-Cast Entertainment Podcast in the search. You'll find it. It's the same logo as our thumbnail on all of our videos.
Yeah. And we'll be releasing there. We'll still be releasing on YouTube.
And if you want to listen to it on mobile, I assume most of you, the audience is mostly skewed younger, so you probably already know this. But if you're going to listen to the iTunes version on your mobile device, download on the App Store the podcast app because you can't get it directly through the iTunes app.
Yeah.
So if you
Apple
download
Podcasts is what it's called now. So.
Yeah. If you download the Apple Podcast app on the Apple App Store, you download it, search for Cate-Cast Entertainment Podcast in the search bar. Click subscribe.
Yeah, and you'll have your
give us a 5-star rating, obviously. And then you should get if you have notifications turned on for it, you should get a notification every time the feed is updated,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. I feel like it's a greater opportunity for us to reach more ears.
Yeah.
So
and the links for podcasts on iTunes are easier to spread around, I think, than YouTube pages.
Yeah. That and It's just a lot.
And you can also download the podcast so you can watch them, listen to them on the go rather than having to have it
on the go. Don't have to keep the YouTube app open.
Yeah.
So I can actually listen to the
you can
podcast
text
now.
Yeah. Those road trips.
And no promises, but next week the Halloween special might be up really late on Halloween night.
Yes.
Theoretically, we will be recording on Halloween, and I'm going to try to have it up before November 1st. It should probably, no promises, but hopefully be up around 10:30 or 11 o'clock on Halloween. Hopefully. Theoretically.
Nobody's promising anything.
No.
It will be up by November 2nd, is what I'll...
November 2nd?
This is Friday.
Oh,
I'm giving us a day's buffer just in case.
Okay. I was going to say, wait, did I have my dates wrong?
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'm looking forward to our Halloween special.
Are we going to reveal the guest or wait?
Let's wait just in case he has to cancel on us. Because
and Ahmad should be back next week.
Yeah, I don't see a world in which Ahmad isn't back next week. So.
But Should I plug our Twitter?
Yeah, go ahead and plug our Twitter.
On Twitter, we don't really tweet unless the new episode is up, but you could follow us there in case there's any updates. Yeah. It's due to Twitter's weird algorithm. It's at CastCata rather than Cate-Cast. So at CASTCATE, capital C's for both words. And you can follow us there, tweet at us if you have any questions about updates or schedules, or if you just like the show.
Nice. Taylor, do you have anything you want to plug?
Not really. Just, listen to the podcast. It's pretty cool. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really glad you came on. It was a sort of last-minute joint, but I'm really glad. It is unfortunate that Ahmad is not here to share it with us, but
yes.
We'll have you on again with Ahmad at some point.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. This was the 6th episode of the Cate-Cast, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.